solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you'll give in the cause now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Please sit.
Just watch your step.
You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Can you state your name for the record and just spell your last name?
Yep. My name is Mary Nagel, N-A-G-L-E.
And what's your educational background, ma'am?
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Biochemistry, Cell and Molecular Biology from Drake University, as well as a Master of Science in Biomedical Forensic Sciences from Boston University.
Can you just pull that microphone a little bit closer? Thank you. And what is your occupation?
I am a Forensic Scientist 2 in the DNA unit at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab.
And how long have you been doing that?
Just over 3 years.
Can you tell us your responsibilities?
Yep, I am capable of performing all of the lab work, as well as reporting and interpreting single source profiles and writing up other reports as well.
What training have you had for this position?
I underwent a 6-month training program that included lectures, exams, and about 50 mock samples for lab practice.
And did you pass the exams that you during your training period?
Yes, I did.
And do you also have ongoing training?
Yes, I do.
And as part of your ongoing training, do you have to take proficiency tests?
Yes, we take 2 proficiency tests a year.
And have you passed those tests?
Yes, I have.
Directing your attention to lab case number 23-00596. Did you do work on item 7-13.2.1, the sample from the handle of the hatchet, and item 9-20.1, the sample from stain A on tape with apparent gauze with red-brown stains?
Yes, I did.
And what did you do on those items?
I performed the 3rd and 4th step of the DNA analysis, which is the amplification and detection process.
And how did you do the amplification step?
For amplification, I was made aware of which samples to process from Emily Oliver. From there, the samples were set aside in a tube, and I took whatever amount was needed specific to that sample item and added chemicals to that. The samples and the chemicals were then put on an instrument that went through a series of heating and cooling, and this process makes millions of copies of that DNA.
And did you use equipment?
Yes, for that, it is mostly just the heating and cooling instrument that is used, and then the pipettes and tubes and instruments like that as well.
And then you said you did the 4th step, detection?
Yes, I did.
And which did you do the detection for both of those items that we previously discussed?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how did you do that?
So after the 3rd step, amplification, the samples are in smaller tubes, and a small portion of that sample is then loaded onto a plate with another set of chemicals. That plate is loaded into an instrument to run, and that instrument then detects the DNA and produces a profile for interpretation.
And did you do the interpretation?
No, I did not.
Who did the interpretation?
That was Saman Salim.
I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
Any questions of this witness? You may step down, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I need to speak up. Ms. Nagel?
Yes.
Just have a few questions for you. Once again, there are certain known inhibitors that affect the ability to amplify the DNA molecule, correct?
There are, yes.
But there's not very many.
Correct.
Because it's a robust molecule, correct?
Right.
One of the inhibitors is, interestingly enough, the blue C in things like Levi's, correct?
It can be, yes.
Okay. But it's not something like oil or grease or things like that. The molecule doesn't get broken down by oil and grease and things like that, correct?
Correct.
And if bleach is used on an item that contains DNA and the bleach breaks down the molecule, that molecule will not properly amplify using your equipment.
It will still be amplified, but parts of that DNA will probably drop out at the end of it, but there is still usually DNA at the front of that profile.
When you say at the front, you mean that the shorter alleles, after the molecule is broken down, the shorter alleles will amplify, but the longer alleles won't because they were broken down by the bleach.
Correct.
And when you look at the results of your amplification, a trained analyst can see that the longer alleles didn't amplify properly, and they may conclude that something like that particular sample might have been affected by bleach or something like that, correct?
We do not look into what could possibly affect the degradation, but we are capable of seeing the fact that the DNA profile will begin to slowly drop in what is present.
Okay, thank you. One other question. Am I correct in saying that an nanogram is 1/1,000,000th of a gram?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Am I correct in saying that a picogram is 1,000th of a nanogram?
A picogram would be 1/1,000,000th.
And when you're using the quantities that you're using to get the results that you complete in the lab, we are talking about quantities in nanometers, aren't we?
Yes.
Tiny, tiny amounts, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any redirect of this witness?
No, Your Honor.
The witness may step down. The Commonwealth may call its next witness.
The Commonwealth would call Yole Bregu. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you'll give in the cause now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. You can be seated.
Right this way. This way, just step forward.
Counsel, can you hold up for a second? You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your entire name for the record?
My name is Yoli Bregu, Jolibregu.
And what is your educational background?
I have a Bachelor of Science in Biology from Boston University and a Master of Science in Biomedical Forensic Sciences, also from Boston University.
And what is your occupation, ma'am?
I'm a forensic scientist too with the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory in the DNA unit.
And how long have you been there?
Since June 2019.
Can you tell us your responsibilities as a forensic scientist too?
Sure. I perform forensic DNA analysis on evidence samples submitted to the lab. So my typical workday consists on processing those samples in the lab, doing the data interpretation, making comparisons with the reference samples, writing reports, testifying this track. And then when I got hired, I was trained at the Massachusetts State Police, specifically in the DNA unit in forensic DNA analysis. The training consisted on lectures, reading of relevant literature, laboratory experience with practice samples, data interpretation, written and oral exams, followed by competency tests.
And did you pass those competency tests?
Yes.
And do you have ongoing training as well?
Yes, we have ongoing training. Every year we are required to take at least 8 hours of continuing education, which is offered in forms of seminars, webinar, workshops. We usually take more because there's more offered through the year. We're also required to read at least one scientific journal article relevant to our field.
And do you have to take testing as well?
Yes, we have to take proficiency testing every year. They are taken twice a year.
And have you passed that proficiency testing?
Yes, I have passed the proficiency testing required throughout my employment. The last one is still in the grading process.
And have you testified in court about DNA?
Yes, I have.
Directing your attention to lab number 23-00596, did you do work on item 7-13.1, the sample from area A on the head of the hatchet?
Yes, I did.
And what work did you do on this item?
I performed the fourth step that is used in forensic DNA analysis, which is detection.
And how did you do the detection step of the DNA process?
So I took the samples from the analyst who had done previous work, Emily Oliver. I prepared those samples, mixing them with the required reagents. Then I loaded them in our instrument that does the detection, known as genetic analyzer, and I started the run. And that's where my role ended. After the run is done, the data is saved automatically in the computer and can be imported by the interpreting analyst for data interpretation.
Did you do the interpretation here?
No, I did not.
Who did the interpretation?
Salman Salim.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination of this witness?
Just a couple.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Magoo,
Yes.
did I see that right?
Yes, you did.
A couple of questions. You're familiar with the term in the context of DNA testing, allele, correct?
Correct, yes.
And the allele is, why don't you just tell the jury what?
The allele is a variant of a DNA fragment that is amplified during our third step. So it's a person has two alleles, one they inherit from the mother and one from the father.
Okay, and the allele then is the section of the DNA molecule that is then looked at once you've separated the molecule, and it's the part of the molecule that then gets amplified, correct?
Yes,
And so if you have an allele that repeats at a certain locus on the DNA molecule, then you may be a particular type at that particular location on the molecule, depending on how many repeating alleles you have.
it's how many repeats are within the allele. So the allele itself is the entire fragment, and within that alleles, there are we call them short tandem repeats. There are repeats, they repeat themselves different numbers for different individuals, and that's what it's assigned to an allele. How many times the fragment repeats itself within the allele.
And people can have the same repeats of alleles in the molecule, but generally speaking, they don't have the same number of repeating alleles across the molecule, at various different loci.
Yes, correct.
And the loci is just plural for locus, right?
Yes, the loci is the location of that particular allele in the DNA molecule.
In the testing that was done in this case, you're using 26 different locations plus the sex area.
Correct, yes.
And that's a melagen.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Any redirect of this witness?
No.
The witness may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. You, the judge. Days ago, I told you, and I think I read you another stipulation, but I'll remind you, a stipulation is just an agreement between the parties, and I'm going to read you now an agreement that the parties have made. This is a stipulation regarding DNA samples of Anna Walsh and Brian Walsh. Reads as follows. On May 9, 2018, FBI Special Agent Tyler Delorme obtained a DNA sample from Brian Walsh. Special Agent Delorme brought the sample to the FBI headquarters in Boston, where it was placed into evidence storage. Also on May the 9th, 2018, FBI Special Agent Matthew Riportella obtained a DNA sample from Anna Walshe. Special Agent Riportella brought the sample to the FBI headquarters in Boston, where it was also placed into evidence storage. On January 10th, 2023, Special Agent Kristen Koch took the sample of Anna Walshe and the sample of Brian Walshe from evidence storage at the FBI headquarters in Boston and brought both samples to the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab. The samples did not leave the custody of the FBI until Special Agent Koch submitted them to the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab for testing. That's Exhibit E for identification. Commonwealth may call its next witness.
The Commonwealth would call Karen Jacobson.
Raise your right hand.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you'll give in the cause now in hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Right this way. Just step for me. Further.
Thank you.
You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please give us your name and spell your name for the record?
My name is Karen Jacobson. That's KarinJacobsen.
And if I could just ask you to pull that microphone a little closer to you. Thank you.
Sure.
What is your occupation, ma'am?
I'm currently employed as a forensic scientist 2 within the DNA unit at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory
And how long have you been there?
since August of 2021.
And what are your duties?
I'm responsible for receiving items of evidence associated with known individuals, taking them through the 4-step DNA process, and making those DNA profiles available for use in comparisons.
And what is your educational background?
I have both a Bachelor's of Science in Forensic Science and a Master's of Science in Forensic Science from Bowling Green State University.
And do you have specialized training to be a DNA analyst?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell us about that training?
The training program within the DNA unit is at least 6 months long. It consists of lectures covering all of our protocols, literature readings covering current and historic methodologies, laboratory processing of at least 50 mock samples, and all of this is wrapped up with a competency test.
And did you pass your competency test?
Yes, I did.
And have you also had ongoing training?
Yes, I have.
And as part of your ongoing training, do you have proficiency testing?
Yes, I do.
And have you passed your proficiency training?
Yes, I have.
I want to ask you about lab number 23-00596. Did you do work on this case?
Yes, I did.
And what work did you do on this case?
The DNA testing process is 4 steps long. I performed the 2nd step and the 4th step for 2 items.
And what were those items?
These were items 13-1.1 and 13-2.1.
And what were those?
These were the DNA saliva collection kits for Anna Walshe and Brian Walshe, respectively.
Okay. So how did you do the step 2? That be the quantification step?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about that, please.
In the 2nd step, quantification, I received a portion of the extract created in the 1st step. I applied a set of chemicals to it and put it on an instrument that goes through cycles of heating, cooling, and this produces an estimate of the amount of human and male DNA present within each sample.
And did you use equipment?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what was that?
This is a 7500 real-time PCR machine.
And who had done the previous step?
The previous step was performed by Katarina Stashin.
Okay. And why didn't you do that step?
We batch our samples in the laboratory processing for the sake of efficiency.
Okay. And then when did you become involved again in this process for these samples?
I then performed the fourth step, separation and detection.
Okay. And can you please tell this jury how you did that fourth step?
So the same person, Katarina Stashin, performed the third step. I received the product produced in the third step from her. I applied another set of chemicals to it and put it on an instrument that separates each of the copies of the DNA by size. And then with the help of some special software, it turns it into a visual representation of the DNA profile.
And did you use any equipment?
Yes, I did.
And what equipment did you use?
This was a 3500 genetic analyzer.
Okay. And then what is the data next ready for in the process?
After the data is reviewed, it's ready for use in comparisons.
Okay. And who did the interpretation and comparison here?
In this case, it was Katarina Stashin as well.
And did you do any other work on these samples?
No, I did not.
I have no further questions.
Cross-exam? The witness may step down.
Thank you.
Commonwealth may call its next witness.
The Commonwealth would call Katarina Stashin.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you'll give in the cause now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Right this way. Just watch your step for me. Step all the way. A little bit further. There you go.
You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Can you please state your name and spell your whole name for the record?
Good afternoon. My name is Katarina Stashin. First name is spelled Katarina. Last name is spelled Stashyn.
And what is your current occupation, ma'am?
I'm currently a criminalist in the biology section at the Washoe County Sheriff's Office Crime Lab located in Reno, Nevada.
And can you please detail your work history as it applies to forensic sciences?
I was previously a forensic scientist in the DNA unit at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory for about 3.5 years, from 2021 to earlier this year, 2025, when I got the opportunity to move back to Nevada to be closer to family and pursue a job still as a DNA analyst.
And what is your educational background?
I have a bachelor's and master's degree in biotechnology from the University of Nevada, Reno.
And do you have any specialized training to be a DNA analyst?
Yes, I received training at both the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab and at my current job in Washoe County. In Massachusetts, I completed an approximately 1-year-long training program that consisted of reading scientific protocols, scientific literature, textbooks, all on the topics of forensic DNA analysis. I also took written exams and oral exams on those topics. I also practiced sets in the lab, both for laboratory processing and for DNA interpretation. Put together practice case files, wrote reports, did comparisons, and all of that training completed with a competency test, of which I passed. And then at Washoe County, I completed an approximately 6-month-long training course due to my experience, where I also did review of scientific literature, textbooks, protocols, practice sets, writing practice reports, performing comparisons or interpretation, etc. And that also completed with a competency test, of which I passed.
And have you also had proficiency testing?
Yes, I have also completed proficiency testing.
And have you passed those tests as well?
Yes, I have passed all competency and proficiency testing that I've taken so far.
And have you testified in Massachusetts about DNA?
Yes, I have.
So what is a single source DNA profile?
A single source DNA profile is a profile that originates from one person or one contributor. And you can identify this in a profile. Just by looking at the profile, you can see how many people are in there.
And what is a known standard?
A known standard is a sample that's taken directly from an individual. For example, a sample from somebody's mouth, a saliva swab, or a blood sample. And it's taken directly from a person to be used for comparison purposes.
And how is a known standard developed into a DNA profile?
A known standard will go through the four-step laboratory process to result in a DNA profile that can then be used for comparisons.
And the four-step process is what?
The four-step laboratory process for DNA analysis is extraction, quantification, amplification, and detection.
So prior to doing any work, how do you prepare your work area?
So when you first get into the lab to do any of those steps, you're going to clean your lab bench. So that involves using a bleach spray to wipe down your area. You're going to clean all of the equipment, utensils, your pens, pipettes, any equipment that you're using. And then me as a person or any lab analyst, you'll be wearing a lab coat, a face mask, a hairnet. You're in full PPE, wearing gloves, changing gloves frequently.
Why do you clean your area and wear PPE?
We do this just to keep everything perfectly clean, or the cleanest that we can, just to help the integrity of the evidence and help produce the best possible profile.
Now I'm going to direct your attention to Massachusetts Case Lab 23-00596. Did you do work on this case?
Yes, I did.
And what did you do on the known standards in this case?
I performed the sample prep, the extraction, and the amplification on the known standards in this case.
And did you also do interpretation on this case?
Yes, I also reviewed the profiles that were obtained from that process and made sure they were able to be used for comparison purposes.
So I want to ask you about each of the things that you just told us about. So were you working on 13-1 and 13-2? Is that correct?
Correct.
And what were those?
Those were the known saliva standards for both Anna Walsh and Brian Walsh.
And so what was 13-1?
13-1 was the known saliva standard for Anna Walsh.
And what was 13-2?
13-2 was the known saliva standard for Brian Walsh.
And how did you do the sample prep for 13-1?
So both of these samples were known saliva samples, so a swab from the mouth, and I just cut up the swab and placed the cotton part of the swab into a tube, a labeled tube with those item numbers that I said.
Okay, so that's what you did for 13-1, and then did you give it another number?
So once I cut that swab off, it then became 13-1.1.
And so did you do the same thing for 13-2?
Yes. So then the cotton that got cut off of the whole swab became 13-2.1.
Okay. And then after you did that sample prep, what did you next do?
Then those samples went through the extraction step of the process.
And how did you do the extraction step?
So extraction consists of adding chemicals to the samples and going through heat variation to help break open the cells present in the sample and release the DNA that is present, and then that DNA is isolated.
And did you use equipment for that?
Yes.
What equipment?
An incubator was used for that heat variation that I mentioned, and an Easy One robot was used for the extraction part, meaning that after it sat in the incubator with the chemicals to break open the cells, a robot is used to isolate that DNA from the rest of the cellular debris left behind.
You told us about sample prep and step 1. Did you do the next step, step 2?
No.
Why not?
Just based on scheduling at the lab, who was assigned to do what step that day.
And who did that next step?
The second step of quantification was performed by Karen Jacobson.
Were you qualified to do all of the steps?
Yes.
And so what did you next do?
I next did the amplification step, that third step I mentioned.
And how did you perform the amplification step?
So amplification is the third step, and this is when we make millions and millions of copies of certain fragments of DNA. So this is done by, again, adding certain chemicals and going through heat cycles to make these many millions of copies of DNA. Because we're usually working with a smaller amount of DNA, you need to make a lot of copies to make it visual and able to be detected.
Did you use equipment?
Yes.
What equipment?
We use what is called a thermal cycler, and this is the instrument that performs those heat cycles needed to make the copies.
So did you do the next step, the fourth step?
No.
Who did that?
Karen Jacobson also performed the fourth step of detection.
So then what did you do next?
So after that full laboratory process was completed, I looked at the data that was produced from those 4 steps, and both items resulted with DNA profiles that I reviewed and made sure were acceptable to be used for DNA comparisons.
And could you visualize a single source?
Yes.
And did you generate a DNA profile for Anna Walshe?
Yes.
And did you generate a DNA profile for Brian Walshe?
Yes.
And were profile sources developed that were appropriate for comparison?
Yes, the profiles developed were acceptable to be used for comparisons.
And they were both single sources?
Yes.
What does appropriate for comparison mean?
When I'm saying appropriate for comparison, I mean that the profile is full, as in data is obtained at every location that was tested, and that it is single source.
And what do you do with the profiles?
That profile is then made into a text file that is made available for the analyst that's going to be doing the comparisons.
And were the profiles assigned a number to identify them?
Yes. So the numbers for the profiles are the same as their item number. So the text file profile for Anna Walshe also had the number of 13-1.1, and the text file profile for Brian Walshe was 13-2.1.
If I might have 1 second, Your Honor.
You may.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-exam. The witness may step down. Thank you.
Thank you all.
So, George, we'll take our lunch break now. See you at 2 o'clock.
All rise for the court, please.
Here is William. Won't you follow me?
What a weird outfit. Hello, it's me.
You don't need anything.
Saddle.
Anything from the
We
defense? You all set? Very good.
We are on lunch. How are you all doing? It's so good to see you. I'm sorry I missed this morning. I was taking a final and I nailed it. Can't talk about it because people might still be taking it, or like there might be other people who didn't get to take it today. The point is I did it. I did it, ladies and gentlemen. I did it. I did my final. It was great. I had a lot of fun. I don't know what to say. I feel so weird. I'm done. I'm done. Now listen, that cost me everything, okay? I spent my absolute last dollar on parking. I don't even have food right now. I literally have to pause this to be like, if you listen to this stream, if you want to help me, I need a lot of help. I might have figured out a way to get a loan. I don't know if it's going to work, but I don't have money for lunch. All I know is I'm done. I barely have any gas in my car, but I'm done. I did it. I made it through my law school final. Now let us mute the court TV stream because they go over and do their lunchtime coverage. And I'll talk to you about things. What are we going to talk about? I don't know. Have you ever taken a law school final? It kind of turns your brain to mush a little bit. I mean, I think... I don't know how to explain the feeling. It's like you know so much going into it, and then you just lay it all out. I must have written like 20,000 characters, and then I had to do some other things. That was a lot. Tal's brain is absolutely overwhelmed, but I did it. I did it, ladies and gentlemen. I finished. Now I gotta wait for my grade. I don't know what I'm gonna get, but I did it. I got through it. I was a erudite little towel, and now I'm really tired. I'm like tired, and my brain hurts, and I feel triumphant, but also confused. Like, how do you do that much work, and how do you spend so many years, and like give your all, and just put out so much, and whatever, and then end up with nothing? And I think it's kind of like what I wanted. I think I was doing it recognizing that, like, to be that person, I had to kind of tread my own path and give a lot up. But you know what? Whatever. It is what it is. I'll figure it out. I always do. Something always works out in the end. And I'm just glad that we got to be together, even if I'm exhausted. Now, what's going on? Well, a lot of things are going on. I mean, that's putting it lightly. First of all, some of the messages I've seen coming out over the past day on social media. What the hell? I mean, just what? I don't even know how to respond to some of this stuff, like involving Meredith and Aiden's lawyers. Like, first of all, why is that being released? It's incredibly inappropriate. Regardless of what you think about what's going on in the proxy wars, it's completely inappropriate. And then the parody account, which I'm pretty sure is linked to Kate Peter, gets exposed this morning. All Kate Peters people are just getting exposed. You can tell someone's a Kate Peter person if they like constantly go at me, and then if they don't like seeing me supported. I'm even worried my mother's a Kate Peter person, and like, don't put it past Kate to talk to people's families and try to alienate them. Totally something I could do. Tal Mom's also got her own connections to the whole Karen Reed case. That's very interesting. But yeah, I missed the morning session of the Brian Walshe and Anna Walshe case today. I got caught up on about the last hour of testimony. So I'm going to maybe see if I can get caught up a little bit on that. I don't know if you're going to get me to yell about anything today because my brain is mush. You can only write so much over 3 hours. I must have been there from like 9 until like noon or something, probably even longer. You can only write so much before your brain goes entirely to mush. But if you're out there and you want to help Little Towel, anything you can do will be appreciated. Towel, I was like, I'll go get like a Towel cheeseburger, but nope. Took everything to like get through the week. Pay this, and it sucks because when you take a final, you have to pay $17 for the damn parking because you can't use the metered parking. So I was like, oh, damn it, on like this day of all days. But I pulled it off. I got there. I got back. Finished my final. Now I just don't have any food. So anyway, it's not the biggest deal in the world. I'll figure it out. I've never really like looked at this as an opportunity to like make money. And I think that's why a lot of people who do it for money kind of resent me. But you know what? I'm not about being like, listen, I need some help right now. Worked hard. And you know what? I don't have anything to show for it right now, but I feel like I've accomplished a lot. And so that is something to show for it. And really, if you're not doing it for temporal gain anyway, what does it matter at the end of the day? Although I guess eating is important, like actually eating and all of that. But I'll start up hopefully something in January that will allow me to study for the bar and bring in some income. But until then, I am dependent on you all. And of course, since we started the trial 4 hours late, I don't even know what happened this morning. So actually, you know what? You know what might be good, because they're not doing lunch coverage right now. Let's take a look, at least on like 2x speed, at what happened this morning. All right, so I can get caught up, jump through the recess, and by 2 o'clock or so, we'll be back in coverage. But I have no idea what happened. When you go into a final, let me just tell you that you have no idea what's going on in the outside world. I have no idea what you all saw this morning. I don't know what was discussed, if anything was discussed before the day began, or if we just went into witness testimony. So let's turn this on, I'd say 2x speed, and see what little owl missed. I've actually watched this whole trial except for yesterday, so I have more than a little bit of catching up to do, ladies and gentlemen. So maybe that's a good way to like let my brain decompress, because I don't know how much I can do. No, I don't want it at normal speed. I don't want it at 1x speed. I want it at 2x speed. What do I have to zoom out to get that option? You can only watch it at 1x or normal. I don't understand. Why would you ever do that? Why wouldn't you just let me choose 2x speed? That is just a terrible, terrible setting. I don't understand why I can't change it to 2x. I guess because it's still live, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, we'll see the morning testimony, and then if there are things that I find interesting, I'll comment on them.
Not that I recall.
Okay. So
This was earlier.
it's fair to say, without going down an exhaustive list, that there were numerous items found in Cohasset that had apparently never been used for any purpose. They were still, in, for lack of a better phrase, brand new, unused condition.
From what I recall, but I didn't specifically look at each and every item.
Okay. It's fair to say, isn't it, that in an investigation like this, you're looking for red-brown stains, because you told us on direct examination that you were looking for blood, correct?
Yes.
And it's fair to say that in no report that you wrote did you ever use the phrase blood spatter or anything similar to blood splatter, correct?
Correct.
And so it's fair to say that you did not determine that what you saw anywhere in the house was indicative of blood spatter evidence, correct?
That is correct.
And if you can, sir, can you tell the jury briefly, or in your own words, what you consider to be, as a forensic specialist, blood spatter evidence?
Blood spatter in general is blood in flight.
And it results from somebody, perhaps, stabbing someone with a knife, and in the movement of the knife, blood evidence flies off the knife and spatters onto a surface, correct?
Yes.
And then when you see blood spatter, then you would analyze it, and you would look for directionality and things like that to determine the directionality of the blood flowing from an instrument, correct?
I wouldn't be doing that. It would be a assigned bloodstain analyst. It would be done in the lab, however, just not by me.
All right, and I apologize. I really wasn't implying that you would do it, but in describing what blood spatter is, you would agree that that's what some analysts that may examine biological evidence found at the scene, that they would analyze it in that way. They would look for directionality and things like that.
Yes.
And there was nothing in this home that you're aware of that could be described as blood spatter evidence.
That is correct.
You were also asked questions yesterday on direct examination about luminol toward the end, the very end of the direct examination, correct?
Yes.
And you gave a brief definition for the jurors of what luminol is, correct?
Correct.
You saw no evidence of any container that had contained anything like luminol in the Cohasset home, did you?
Correct.
And in fact, you have no evidence that luminol was ever used in the home in Cohasset by anyone, correct?
Correct.
I want to ask you something a little bit about this testing, the instrument that you used for testing. Yesterday, you referred to swab K in Exhibit 216, photograph 1066. If I could have, if you don't mind, Exhibit 216, Ms. Gilman. And those are the swabs that you would then use, that you collected from some of the basement floor stains, the A through G, correct?
Yes.
And could I now have Exhibit 217, photograph 1067? That, what we saw yesterday is, that is a Ceratec instrument, so to speak, that the Mass State Police uses to then analyze something like a stain you would find on the floor, like you did in the basement, to determine if it was blood, correct?
Correct.
And is that, can you tell the jury, when you talked about screening tests and confirmatory tests, was that the screening test or a confirmatory test?
This is the confirmatory test.
Now, there are certain protocols that you, as a forensic analyst, have to use the Ceratec product, right?
Yes.
And without going into it, I think it's fair to say, and you tell me if I'm wrong, whenever you used that instrument, you used it correctly, didn't you?
Yes.
And you don't have any reason to believe that the results that you relied on in testing the biological evidence in this case, that the evidence that flowed from this Ceratec instrument was erroneous, correct?
Correct.
You would agree, wouldn't you, that these instruments are very sensitive, correct?
Yes.
And the protocols actually suggest in using this instrument that you shouldn't use a liquid that is undiluted because it may overwhelm the instrument. So you dilute it, correct?
Correct.
In fact, the sensitivity of the Ceratec HEM instrument that you used, by the way, HEM, H-E-M, does that stand for hemoglobin?
It is I believe so. I'm not sure if it stands for hemoglobin or not.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. That is the substance of the blood that this testing instrument is testing for, correct?
Yes.
And it's sensitive to the point that it can determine the presence of hemoglobin at the quantity of 20 nanograms per milliliter. That's what it says in the protocols, right?
It sounds correct. I would have to review the protocol.
Okay. And just as I'm going to look for that, I'll just ask you this. 20 nanograms per milliliter. I'm correct, aren't I, that a nanogram is 1/billionth of a gram?
Yes.
So 20 nanograms is simply 20 billionths of a gram, correct?
Correct.
That is, and I'm not a scientist like you, but that's a pretty small amount of substance, isn't it?
Yes.
It's something that you can't even see with just your plain old eyes, right?
Correct.
So it's fair to say that in checking this home for blood evidence, that you were using an instrument that if you swabbed an area of the home, you could detect the presence of hemoglobin if it only was there in the amount of 20 nanograms per milliliter, correct?
Correct.
And the only place in this home in Cohasset that you found anything of blood evidence of significance were those areas you told us about in the basement, correct?
Correct.
May I approach you?
You may.
You mentioned the protocols and that it sounded right when I said 20 nanograms per milliliter. I'm just going to show you page 2 of the protocols. Just ask you to read it to yourself. And after having done that, if you could just look up and tell me you read it. You ready?
Yes.
So, having reviewed that document, do you recognize that document as protocols applicable to the blood testing instrument we've been talking about?
That is the protocol that comes with the Sarachek card itself. We also have internal lab protocols that we follow for the specific testing.
You will agree that the protocol that I just showed you, though, does specifically state that the sensitivity of this instrument is at 20 nanograms per milliliter, correct?
Yes.
So, when you collect biological evidence at the scene it cohabited, you're not trying to quantify what it is you're finding, correct?
Correct.
So it can be a very tiny amount, correct?
Yes.
And that tiny amount, and we're talking about something of 20 nanograms per milliliter, you didn't find anything, even in the amount of 20 nanograms per milliliter, that you examined, correct?
Yes.
Yes, no, you did not find it.
Correct.
That's fine, it's my fault. And you did not find it anywhere in the kitchen area, correct?
Correct.
So somebody can try to clean a floor, and somebody can try to clean a bathroom area. But if they leave something as small as 20 nanograms per milliliter of biological evidence, this instrument that you rely on could detect it, correct?
Theoretically, yes.
Could I have exhibit number 97, please? You see the rug in exhibit 97?
Yes.
Is it your opinion that that rug is the rug that you testified to yesterday?
It looks similar, but I can't confirm if it is or not.
And do you recognize the room that that rug is in with the fireplace?
Yes, this looks like the first floor living room.
Okay, and that's the room that you examined, correct?
I did not do a full examination. It was one of those areas that I did a brief visual exam as I was walking through to the second floor and first floor.
All right, if you can take down exhibit 97. Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. In any event, when you went into that living room, and whether you made a cursory inspection, and no one told you could only spend a little bit of time in the living room, that's fair to say, right?
Correct.
You could spend as long as you needed to find whatever it was you were looking for, and that was blood, right?
Yes.
And you could have torn up the floor in the living room like they did up in the second floor room if you had any reason to believe that there was blood or biological evidence in that living room, correct?
Correct.
And you could look for what we just talked about, the blood spatter evidence on the fireplace that you see in exhibit 97. You could do all those things, but what happened was when you went through the living room, you saw nothing that gave you pause to look at that room for biological evidence other than walking through it, looking, and then moving on to another area, correct?
Correct.
And that rug that is seen in exhibit 97 lying on the floor, there was simply no evidence on the floor area in front of the fireplace that there was any biological evidence of any significance. And when you, right, let me cut that off, right?
Correct.
And when you were examining that area, and was that on January 9th or January 8th?
January 8th.
So when you were examining that area on January 8th, that rug wasn't there, was it?
Correct.
So that entire floor was in plain view, wasn't it?
Yes.
And it'd be pretty easy, wouldn't it, for you or any one of your colleagues to examine that particular area of the floor to see if there was any biological evidence on the floor where that was evidence, correct? And you testified yesterday extensively on direct examination that there are numerous parts of pieces of rug that you examined, and you told the jury about the red-brown stains you saw on that rug and those pieces, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever, as one of the forensic scientists involved in this case, did you ever piece together the fragments of the rug that you testified to yesterday?
I did not. That would not be my unit if it was requested for analysis.
Do you know if anybody did in the Mass State Police crime?
Not that I'm aware of.
I want to turn your attention now briefly to the knife that you testified to yesterday that was found in the cabinet above the refrigerator, okay? And if we can have Exhibit 201, please, Ms. Gilman. Once again, that's the cabinet, correct?
Yes.
And inside that cabinet, you found a knife, correct?
Correct.
And inside that cabinet, we see various items, including boxes, what appears to be bottles of hydrogen peroxide.
Yes.
And we also see can you tell the jury what they see in the right side of Exhibit 201, another container with a red label and white lid on it?
That is hydrogen peroxide wipes.
Okay. And were those wipes also in apparent brand new condition? They hadn't been opened?
Don't recall.
Okay. Could we have Exhibit 202, Ms. Gilman? And if I may, do you know, Mr. Sheehan, if then when someone was taking this photograph, if that is the exact condition of how the knife was found?
Yes, it is.
And that was after someone removed, and I say someone like one of your colleagues, they removed that bottle of hydrogen peroxide and those wipes.
Yes.
You told us yesterday that there was a screening test conducted on that knife, correct?
Yes.
But there was no confirmatory test, correct?
Correct.
It's fair to say then that you, as you sit here today, you can't tell us whether whatever you characterized as screening test results as possible blood, you don't know if it's blood or not, do you?
That is correct.
And since you didn't do a confirmatory test, you certainly can't tell us that it was blood, correct?
Correct.
And you told us that on item number 1-8, which is the knife, Exhibit 215, that you otherwise didn't see any visible stains, correct?
Correct.
So is it fair to say, if I understand your testimony from yesterday, that on this knife that was found above on the refrigerator, you neither saw any visible stains, red blood stains, and you don't know what it was on the preliminary screening test, whether it was blood or not, correct?
Correct. It was only a screening test positive.
And if you know, Mr. Sheehan, that sample that you collected from that knife was never subjected to any further testing.
Correct.
So there is no evidence whatsoever that that knife had any biological substance on it, like blood at all, right?
Aside from the positive screening test, no.
But the screen test doesn't tell us it's blood.
That is correct.
If I could have, Ms. Gilman, Exhibit 208. Yesterday, you see that photograph, Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
And you described that as the bottom basement step in the Cohasset home, correct?
Correct.
Do you know how that step came to become broken, or however you want to characterize it?
I was notified that someone, when they were doing a preliminary search around the house, had stepped on it and it broke.
Okay. And so you don't know if it was cracked before that person you just described actually then completely broke this here, do you?
I don't.
you have no idea, she said here today, what condition that stair was in when it then thereafter was reported as being broken by, I'm just going to say, one of your colleagues or one of the Mass State Police people?
Correct.
But you did say that there was a blood stain that's indicated there on the bottom piece of wood lying on the concrete floor.
It was a red-brown stain. I did not do confirmatory testing in the lab on this one.
Okay, so we don't know if that stain is indicative of blood or not.
It is indicative of blood, but so it had screened positive, but no confirmatory testing was done.
Okay, but you can't, it could be blood though.
Yes.
Okay.
There before he had went to do the Volvo and to do the examination at the trash collection site.
And also, do you know a trooper named Stephanie Devlin?
Yes.
And she was there, correct?
Correct. She's assigned to the crime scene services section. She's the one that took majority of the photos.
All right. And she was involved in also not only taking the photos, but was she also involved in conducting and assisting in conducting latent print examination?
Yes.
And who else was there?
I would have to refer to my notes. There was a large amount of people there from both the crime scene services section and the detective unit.
Do you know of anyone named Sullivan?
Heather Sullivan?
Well, there's two, I guess. Heather Sullivan. Tell us about Heather Sullivan.
She was assigned to the crime scene services section, and I believe she was the one who took photos of everything at the trash collection site.
Okay. Are you familiar with any other Sullivan who was a trooper that was at the scene examining the home at Cohasset?
Not off the top of my head.
All right. And could you just estimate, as the best you can from your memory, how many people from the Mass State Police were there examining the home? Let's start on January 8th.
I would approximate about 10.
Okay. And how about January 9th? Once again, we understand it's an approximation.
I'd say about 15.
And it's fair to say that both on January 8th and January 9th, that those people were there for all day doing their work, correct?
Correct.
And their work included looking for any evidence and examining every single room in that house for it, correct?
Correct.
When you differentiate between the crime lab and crime scene services, can you just briefly, once again, tell the jury the difference between the two units?
So the crime scene services section is essentially the sworn division of criminalistics. They do all of the testing for fingerprints and any type of impression evidence, as well as documentation with both photo and video. We are both criminalistics and crime scene services are under the umbrella of the crime lab.
So they're trained professionals with combined years of experience looking for any and everything that could be significant in the investigation of a case, correct? Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And when you're working with groups like that, number of people, 5, 10, is it fair to say that when you get together at a crime scene or where you think a crime was committed, you collaborate, you talk with each other about what you saw or what you might not see? Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And it's fair to say that in the course of an investigation like this, you would then review perhaps your colleagues' reports or their notes so you have a better idea of the entire scope of the investigation.
Correct.
And you rely on those reports, don't you, to be accurate and to reflect what was found at a scene, correct?
Yes.
And so there's something called field notes that you and your colleagues.
Yes.
And what you do is and tell me if I'm wrong, you fill out.
Hey, towel friends. So some of you, good to see so many of you, Dilly Pickle Pants and Nunya, and I saw Nancy earlier. I'm still here. I'm just trying to figure out my life. I'm so hungry. But don't, listen, I worked hard, all right? I'm proud of myself, and that's what I'm going to focus on. Like, I'm not doing well otherwise, but that part's fine. and I'm going to hold it together, and we're going to figure it out. And I want to show you the breaking news just coming across your towel screen. So if you missed it, the DOJ has made a major announcement in the Matthew Farwell case. I'm going to bring it up on your towel screens right now. Well, that's not what I wanted. Hold on, let me zoom out. Okay, that's somewhat better. There we go. How about that? All right. So I'm going to read this for you right now. This just came across the wires about 30 minutes ago. It's not even in the press yet. The United States of America by Leah B. Foley, United States Attorney, and Elizabeth C. Riley, Brian A. Fogarty, and Tori B. Cummings, Assistant United States Attorney for the Attorneys for the District of Massachusetts, advises the court that the Attorney General of the United States, Ms. Pamela Bondi, has directed the government not to seek the death penalty in the Matthew Farwell cases. Oh my word, ladies and gentlemen. The implications of this are astounding. It absolutely means we could have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where Matthew Farwell is cooperating. That is absolutely the potential takeaway. Obviously, the federal government just filed a superseding indictment a few months ago related to Matthew Farwell in the Sandra Birchmore case, the horrific taking of Sandra Birchmore's life and the life of her unborn 8 to 10-week-old baby boy by Matthew Farwell on February the 1st, 2021 at about 9:27 p.m. Now, Matthew Farwell was never charged by the state police. In fact, they exonerated him. The very same state police unit, ladies and gentlemen, that looked into Karen Reed and was investigating Turtle Boy and has ties to Kate Peter. Ladies and gentlemen, if Matthew Farwell cooperates, it's over. It's over, I'm telling you right now, because this Sandra Birchmore's life was not taken in a vacuum. Sandra Birchmore definitely knew a lot about a ring of cops, and I think that ring extended beyond just Matthew Farwell. So, why take the death penalty off the table, ladies and gentlemen? You have to ask yourself over and over and over again, if you are the United States Attorney's Office, why are you going all the way up to Washington, Maine Justice? Why are you having Maine Justice take the death penalty off the table? Oh boy, is this a situation where very soon we are going to find out Matthew Farwell is cooperating? Are all the pieces moving into place? Is it all about to happen? You can't just have Matthew Farwell cooperate, because otherwise you'd be giving up a very good case. You have to have him cooperate against someone or some group that is highly valuable. Oh my word. Oh my word. This single document, although it doesn't look like the kind of explosive document we talk about from time to time on this stream where you can really see everything popping off the screen. No. This is a subtle document with a litany of different possible meanings. We know this DOJ is willing to seek the death penalty. How do we know that? Because President Trump announced when he returned to office in 2025 that his DOJ would be pursuing the death penalty. They do it. The Biden administration didn't do it. This administration does. All right. Well, Matthew Farwell got a death penalty attorney maybe like 6 to 12 months ago, maybe closer to 6. This case has been oddly, circumlocutously, if that's even a verb, winding its way through the federal court system with delay after delay after delay after delay. And we do have a trial date set for next year in federal court. But I'm telling you, folks, from the very beginning of those delays, whether it was the Justice for Sandra Birchmore account or other accounts following this, people were saying there's something not right about these delays, about how this is all being handled. And no one could really put their finger on it. All right. And I'm not saying that my version of it is per se the 100% right version. Okay. I am one perspective among many. Do I know more about this than a lot of people? Sure. I think that's fair to say. but I'm still just one perspective among many. And as one perspective, my primary sort of, I think, role is to balance what I think is going on with the duty I have to, I feel, report it in the public interest. Now, as we're getting closer to this all crescendoing, I feel a lot more comfortable talking about some things. All right. Now, my brain is mush right now, so I'm not promising you're going to get anything. I haven't eaten today. I don't have lunch right now. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm a little bit kind of nervous because I don't know what I'm going to do, but I want to talk a little bit. The Brian Walshe trial's on lunch till 2 anyway, okay? So here's what I want to talk about. Number one, Adam Deutsch did not resign from the DOJ, in my opinion, because he didn't like the work, or he wasn't able to do what he wanted to do. No way. He left because whatever it is that he was working on was basically like coming together. All right, that's my opinion. Now, why did he specifically run for Norfolk DA? Well, if you're a federal prosecutor, you know what's coming down the pipe. Bro, you've been in the grand juries. I love it, Nanya. I love the monkey emojis. I love it. Now, if you know anything about the federal system, you'll know if you're a federal prosecutor, you know everything. Like, you know what's coming down the pipe. You're privy to very sensitive information. So therefore, I think Adam Deutsch knows exactly what's coming. And I think he timed his run a little bit early because he thinks there's going to be an election issue based on what's going to come out of this situation with Farwell. Okay, why does taking the death penalty off the table, why is that such a big deal? Well, it's a big deal for two reasons. Number one, because it immediately centers the who. Like, who are you cooperating against, okay? That immediately centers the discussion about the unit, the state police unit, with two members who used to be police officers, Yuri Buchanan and John Fanning. John Fanning, the 20-year partner of Brian Tully, the unit commander. John Fanning was one of them who used to work in Stoughton. John Fanning, who wrote the report exonerating, basically, Matthew Farwell, absolving Farwell of responsibility for Sandra's untimely demise, trying not to use the M word as much on YouTube. Now, I'll tell you, there is something to be said about what type of high-value information you'd have to give over if you were Matthew Farwell in order to get some kind of deal. Are you going to get, avoid going to prison? Hell no. This man is going to federal prison for a long time. The question was, were they going to execute him, or was he going to get some kind of protection? As you know, the federal prison system is not exactly, they can protect you, but they didn't protect Whitey. He got killed basically the day he got to Leavenworth or whatever it was. And he, I wouldn't say he helped the government, but he certainly, helped John Conley, and he helped himself too. But then now you have a situation where, okay, a lot of things are starting to make sense. These people don't need civil attorneys. Karen Reed's civil case against these people, if this is what I think, this memo, is the least of these people's worries. There's got to be something going on we don't know about. I'm telling you. It explains the vitriol. Why is, if you're, think about the people in the orbit of this unit, of Michael Proctor, Brian Tully, Yuri Buchanan, John Fanning, Nick Garino, etc., etc., etc. Who are the people in your orbit? Who's fighting for you in the public sphere? Kate Peter and her people, okay? How desperate do you have to be to have Kate out there basically burning Meredith as a mole, in my opinion, out there burning Broyles basically as a mole, burning this other guy, one of the line sitters who has a parody account. That guy got burned today. He's this little don't know, short man. He kind of fawned over me a little bit. He like wanted to be in a picture with Rita and and so he was very like obsequious. But I guess he's a little bit like obsessed. I don't think he's obsessed. I think he's a Kate Peter person who's been pretending to be anti-Turtle Boy and anti-Karen Reed while actually feeding info to Kate. And I think a lot of those people, Kate has them either attack Lindsay or myself or both of us to get street cred to then be able to infiltrate some of these networks. I've always believed that. But that guy got exposed this morning. Then this other guy gets exposed for being behind the John Barron account. All these people tie to Kate. All right. It's the same playbook all the time. Like, it's this weird network of Discord people that I'm pretty sure are pred hunters. And like, that's a noble calling. All right. But what I think they're doing is like, they have this like orbit. Like, you got to remember, Kate, before she got involved in all this, like, she was working for Aiden, split off from him, and then she like trolled First Amendment auditors. Now, First Amendment auditors kind of suck. They're like shitty people, but Kate would like troll them. Now, why would you do that unless you were like friendly with the cops? Okay, the only people, like, most people look at First Amendment auditors as just kind of like, and I'm not saying every First Amendment auditor is like this, but some of them they're basically sovereign citizens. Okay, I'm not saying everyone, but basically a lot of First Amendment auditors are sovereign citizens. Who the fuck cares about a fucking sovereign citizen, bro? Sovereign citizens are out of their fucking mind. Have you ever listened to a sovereign citizen in a fucking court hearing? Oh my God. Judges, like, look at them like they have 17 heads. Like, it's incredible. And I think part of it, ladies and gentlemen, is like Kate had a lot of law enforcement connection. She told me to my face. She was like, I've known police for a while, and like she would kind of like, sometimes back in the day, I'm talking like early 2024, before I really realized what she was, like she would say things like, we'd be at Lindsay's or something, and she would like drink wine and just say shit. And I like have an eidetic memory, like depending on what's going on. And so like I was picking up on this and I was like, what the fuck are you? And then like you kind of figure it out, like all this weird network, like of Discord operatives, like Hoops and all these other people and Biff and whatever. It all goes back to like 2019. All right. These people like all knew each other behind the scenes, and it doesn't make sense that they knew each other because Kate was trolling First Amendment auditors. Sorry, that's not what was happening. They knew each other because they were probably like running ops where like Kate would go into some like thing and like try to it's kind of like what Schlepp does, but a little bit like more malicious, like you know the kids at college campuses who like set up preds, and then the pred comes to the campus and then they just like beat the living fuck out of them. It's not that part I don't necessarily condone, but it's good work to like expose these preds. But it's like Chris Hansen, but without the like network guardrails. All right, it's just like vigilanteism. But it's important vigilanteism because, as you'll come to find out, like pred networks are very powerful. Now, the problem is that some pred networks get involved with pred hunting. All right, so keep that in mind. And then the other problem is that like law enforcement sometimes does bad things with children. All right, we just need to confront this reality. So therefore, if you're law enforcement and you're doing bad things to kids, you probably want to like be friends with or have dirt on or whatever the people who are pred hunters, because if they stumble across you and their fucking stings, you better have something on them or they're going to expose you. Everybody's starting to get how politics works now. Now, I'm not involved. Listen, I don't really, first of all, I have a problem with people who hurt children. All right. So you can't put me in a position where I have to hunt these people, because that is so far over the line that if I start hunting them, I'm going to develop a vitriolic, visceral hatred for them, and it's not going to be cool. So I'm thrilled that people do that work. It's important. I'm never doing it. You have to look at that shit. I'm not fucking doing it. I don't, listen, the people who do that work, they are unsung heroes. There are people on units that have to do some really fucked up stuff in order, they don't do it. They have to consume it in order to like protect children. No, they go, like those people, literally they need combat pay, like hazard pay, because they go insane. It kills them. If you are a normal person, and you don't like think it's okay to do that to children, it will break your soul. And every single one of them ends up in therapy pretty much within like 6 months to a year, and they have to be in therapy for their entire duration of their career because it will break you. And it does. You hear some of these interviews with the agents who leave that field. They are never the same again. And I don't know how to fix that problem. That's why these vigilantes, they do kind of operate in an important space if they're hardened enough to do it. It's fucking brutal. But the point is, when you're talking about vigilantes, I don't care if they're doing something very noble. I don't care if they're filling a need. They're vigilantes. They don't answer to fucking anybody, okay? Like, it's kind of like hackers, okay? You got, like, white hat hackers who, like, those are the people who, like, do bug bounty programs and, like, they use their code knowledge to, like, make the internet safer. Then you got black hat hackers, okay? Those are people who are, like, it doesn't matter, whatever, you want to sell me this, sell me that, give me this data, run this, get that. It doesn't matter. Nothing's off limits. Then in the middle is a gray hat who's kind of like willing to push the line, but only within like a moral framework. Like understands the threat actors, the persistent threat actors, understands what a white hat does, like how to do a bug bounty, but like operates somewhere in the middle. Hello, Peggy. How you doing, my dear friend? And so that's kind of what you have to understand about all of this in some sense, is that we are dealing with, I think, this John O'Keefe and Karen Reed case was just kind of, the reason it was a problem was not that Karen was bringing attention to it. It was that Karen was bringing attention to a unit that had things to hide, and they're dangerous. These people are dangerous. So this unit looked at Kate Peter as like a mechanism to counter Aidan Kearney while insulate the narrative. Now, I have some other thoughts, too, with the way Karen's moving. And I don't know. I don't talk to Karen, so I don't really know. But something's odd about all of this. Like, I kind of have to figure out if Karen's position is, like, Karen and Aidan should work together to take these people down, or if Karen's pot committed to being hostile to Aidan. If there's no room for negotiation and Karen is just pure hostile to Aidan, it's because Karen's the one that got the deal, and everything I was assuming about the second Karen Reed trial was wrong. It wasn't the feds. It was Brennan managing a not guilty verdict in a way that would facilitate a larger deal. Why do I say that? Well, because everything kind of changed in November of 2024. I don't know what it is, but something kind of changed going into Karen Reed's second trial. And yeah, the switch in the U.S. Attorney's Office was part of it. But I don't really believe the U.S. Attorney's Office was going in there being like, yeah, who cares about the cover-up of Birchmore's murder? Who cares what Fanning and Tully and all them knew about that? I don't believe that. And I also believe the feds were responsible for why Proctor had to, out of nowhere, turn over 12 years of his phone records after obstructing justice, pretty much. I mean, you can argue that either way. But when you withhold 12 years of records and say you don't have them and you got rid of your old phone and the new phone auto-deletes, and then 45 days later you're turning over new records and you were the subject of a federal grand jury and they probably subpoenaed your phone during it, you don't have to do a lot of background research. Like, I could have figured, like, immediately, like, and I didn't because I didn't see the big picture and I was not intimately in. The Sandra Birchmore case is connected to this unit. If I had been able to put that together from the beginning, I would have said the same shit that Karen was saying in some of those messages to Aidan. This unit is dangerous. I have to be very careful here. And they have everyone in their pocket, or they have everyone in, like, on their Rolodex. That's what I would have been saying. And I think that her approach, reading through the lines, reflects an understanding of what this unit was up to. And so in the sense that now you got to think a little wider. First of all, this unit, right? Kate Peter was sending emails in July of 2023 talking about Netflix and whatever. We know the Netflix project is not Kate's project. It's Gretchen Voss's project. So anything that Kate is doing representing herself as being involved with the Netflix project, it's not Kate's project. It's not the witnesses' project. It's Gretchen's project. I know exactly how that project started. It didn't even have anything to do with the Karen Reed trial initially, okay? And we don't need to go down that road. But all I'm going to tell you is that is Gretchen Voss's project, okay? Maybe it has a production team and other things involved. There's one woman whose name I'm going to withhold, and Gretchen Voss, who started that whole project. All right. Now, it's an institutional, bureaucratic kind of thing because it ties into Boston Magazine, I'm sure, and all this other stuff. But the point is, there's something about the summer of 2023, why they brought on Kate Peter, what they were concerned about, how the narrative about the Reed and O'Keefe case had to be managed, why Kate Peter was a PI for Marty Kraft, what is the connection between Meredith and Canton and Southie and Canton. Why are there all these people who are now coming out, and it's becoming more and more clear that they were either like close to Turtle Boy or even sometimes like dating Turtle Boy or close to Karen or close to Karen's people, but really now that everyone's getting exposed, and Christy Citroni somehow is the one at the center of all of this, exposing most of this, now it's coming out that a lot of these people were not who they said they were, or were not representing what they were doing fully, and a lot of them had mixed motives, and it all seems to tie back to this artificial network of people, fake accounts, real accounts, it doesn't matter, who were out there churning up very specific narratives, oftentimes targeting myself and Lindsay, in an attempt to appear pro Turtle Boy and pro Karen Reed so that those people could get credibility, so they could get intel from insiders and feed it back to Kate and the state. That's what seems to me to make the most sense here. And it's why everything is collapsing, because if indeed through all of that noise the feds got this unit, it's over. They have to get them. You don't understand. Folks, I don't know if you understand. Everything, people talk about hope in Leah Foley. You don't understand what you're hoping for. If there is a God, then U.S. Attorney Leah Foley will, and Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, they will bring this unit to justice. And let me just tell you, it will be over, okay? If they indict these guys, if they can prove, if Farwell gives up the people who tried to get him off as to Sandra's death, I'll cry. If they can do it, they're our last hope. Like, we need Attorney General Bondi. We need U.S. Attorney Foley. There's no one else who can, like, these people caused so much harm, and they were so flagrant, and they hid in plain sight, and they would go around, just like Kate or anyone else in their orbit, pretending to be the salt of the earth, when in reality they were exceptionally dangerous, in my opinion. And we have to stop them. We have to. I don't care if it tears my family apart. I don't care if it puts me in the poorhouse. I don't care what it takes. They didn't necessarily harm me, although eventually I think they did get to my mom, although they may have always had a connection to my mom. We got a lot more to talk about that. But I'll get over it. I'll figure it out. I am incredulous that there's this like wall of silence. It's not a blue wall of silence, because cops critique each other all the time. No. Like, look at former or Sergeant Murphy and Sean McDonough and whatever. The cops critique cops all the time. No, what we're talking about here is a wall of silence that connects very powerful state police with very powerful local families, with very powerful local politicians, with very powerful interests. Okay, it's this nexus that overlaps between very dirty money, very dirty behavior, very dirty secrets. It is Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil on steroids. It's the worst situation you've ever seen. And what's maddening about it, although I'm praying every night that this comes to fruition, what's maddening is that people are out there defending this unit. They got so wrapped up in the Karen Reed and John O'Keefe case that they inadvertently ended up defending a unit that could end up going down for one of the biggest cover-up scandals in the history of the United States of America. Hi, Nicola Cox. And it happened, ladies and gentlemen, related to the abuse of an underage girl, her being impregnated, and then being taken from this earth, along with her 8 to 10 week old unborn baby boy. And then to have that covered up. And then to have that unit just parading around out there. Oh my God. It runs deep. It runs so deep that I'm concerned that if some of these guys start to actually go down, listen, you have to like arrest them immediately. You can't let them be out on the streets if they were actually involved in what this means. Oh my goodness. They have, and this is not routine misconduct. If Farwell gives up the people who helped him get away with that crime, it's the only justice. I'm telling you that we can deal with a lot of the other stuff, okay? Like a lot of the stuff Kate was doing, in my opinion, like the feds got to really think about that because it went way too fucking far. And the same thing with Tully and the release of that phone extraction. Like Marty Kraft and Tully, and Kate got to answer some questions. Like the feds need to find out, and all of them are good at manipulating. They know the system, but the feds have got to find out why they took it so far. That's a collateral situation, but we have to find out why they took it that far. That was really the tip of the spear when it came to a lot of the harm that was being done. So why was that happening? Okay. And then the other sort of collateral things we have to figure out are, how did this spill over into the Reed and O'Keefe trials? And furthermore, was the development related to Proctor's phones and all of this new information coming out related? And then furthermore, what about this discovery that's missing involving Jen McCabe? What about Jen McCabe claiming she didn't know the FBI was the FBI, so she gave them a false name, etc., etc.? What if all of that was just part of a larger web, and it really was all about Tully and Fanning and Proctor and Uri and Nick Garino and anyone who touched that Birchmore investigation? And what happened was, before John O'Keefe's death, what if these people were talking about Birchmore and now they're all caught up in it? That's the only thing that makes sense to me. It's why they're all apoplectically panicking, why they're all burning their sources. And furthermore, it explains why there's this weird Southie, Canton, MSP, Stoughton network, okay? Because this was a fucking shit show. All right? It was bad cops and very powerful people doing bad shit. And I'm not even convinced that Meredith was random, okay? Southie connection, now talking to Kate, moves so weird. And I'm pretty convinced Deanna Corby's a PI. I'm sorry. I'm not convinced some other people aren't PIs, by the way. I'm telling you, nobody's being forthright. There's a lot of weird stuff going on, but it's all coming to the surface. When you're at the point where the Miss Grant Smith account is exposed as that line sitter who was pretending to be pro Aiden but is clearly a Kate person, when you have John Barron exposed as this politically connected guy, when you got Broyles exposed, when people are starting to ask if Broyles was working for Kate, it's all basically coming to the surface. Okay, why? Because they're rats fleeing a sinking ship, and what the glue holding it all together was the Norfolk DA and this MSP unit. And by the way, I've also learned enough on the beat to know that it wasn't Michael Morrissey. All right, he was a politician. He was just running the office. It was the people around him who had control of the office, and that's why you see I really wonder, I don't think there's going to be a whistleblower from this office. They treated the prosecutors so bad, the MSP, something is coming. No, and I don't think we're going to see an invasion by the lizard people, Nunya. I don't think we're going to go, I don't think there's any lizard people. As far as I'm aware, even though Shrek is kind of a lizard, there are no lizard people involved in this. The extent of it seems to be indictments for the Birchmore cover-up. Cut through all the noise, all the drama, all the fighting, all the leaks, all the moles, all the chaos. What's at the center of it? Sandra Birchmore. I've said it so many times, but people and the feds have to move on this. That's why I've said it over and over. They have to get something out of this. They have to arrest this unit, because otherwise they're going to keep doing it. They're going to be out there in public. Yeah, they'll get punished internally, but it's too much inside baseball and the crimes are too serious. They have to indict. So, listen, I don't even know what to say about that. That would be the kind of natural culmination of all of this, but I don't know if I'm ready for that. That was the last thing I expected. Let me just tell you that. Now, the Walshe trial is about to come off lunch recess, and then I'll hopefully be able to figure out what's going on with me. And, oh, damn it. Ladies and gentlemen, life is hard for a Little Towel. If you are enjoying this coverage and you want to help Little Towel, today's the day. I do not have a lot of means right now, and I'm struggling. But you can help Little Towel. Yes, indeed. And you can help Little Towel through all the means in the description, and I'll continue to provide you news coverage, and hopefully I can go get lunch soon enough. But yes, Towel finished law school, and I just went on a very, very, very interesting sort of Towel explication, so I hope you found that helpful. And that was helpful, actually. That helped me calm down. Some people calm down by, like, resting. I calm down by talking to you all. I don't see Morrissey going down. I see his guys going down. Morrissey's a lawyer. Morrissey sent that email to Tully and Fanning in August of 2024 when Farwell got indicted by the feds for a reason. Morrissey asked Tully and Fanning if it was true. I think he did that for a reason. Because he was covering his ass. Morrissey's too smart. He's a lawyer. He's not going down. But I could absolutely see some of those state police guys going down. They just don't move in the same way as Morrissey. And I also feel like Morrissey has more friends. As much as he had enemies with Rachel Rollins and whatever, he was like a long-term state politician. It's different spheres of power. I think that's the way to think of it. It's different spheres of power. And that's like the clash of like the political class with the state police class with whatever the hell those people in Canton are. They're not regular people. They're something else. It really is something else. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. There's something dark about it. Something very, very, very sinister. And you can feel it. Like, as fake nice as the town is, you can feel how sinister it is when you go to it. And people can't really put their finger on it, because, like, a lot of people would be like, Grant, no, a small town in the South Shore is not sinister. There's, like, little baseball games, and they have, like, parks, and no, it is fucking sinister. I'm telling you. You go there, and it just has this vibe, like you shouldn't be here. Like, all of them, like, forget whether you're wearing pink or not. Like, the vibe is just like, you shouldn't be here. It's weird. I don't know. The whole thing, like, it looks like a normal town, but that's what's so, like, odd about it. When you actually study Canton as a town, my God, like, there's some history there, and it's, I don't know, it's hard for being around here to talk about this stuff because it's like see no evil, hear no evil kind of thing. And I don't really care except to the extent that it influences the justice system. And so you can't really unpack too much of it. I think that would cause like a complete destabilization of the social structure in Eastern Massachusetts. You just can't. Right? You got to have this like very gentle approach to breaking this up. That's why I think they're doing this. It's not going to be gentle by any means, but I think if you just isolate the unit, the state police unit, if that's your primary purpose, then you kind of get to the core of the issue. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy because a lot of these folks have entrenched connections even within the feds. Like, I'm kind of wondering, like, whether some of these people were connected enough to do real-time opposition intel research on the feds while the feds were investigating them. So we got to keep all of this in mind. We got to keep a very close eye on how all this plays out. And court is going to come back into session in a minute or two here. Thank you all for that very interesting lunch chat. I realize it was more just me ranting, but, you know, I had something to say about that Farwell motion indeed. It's hard to prove he did whatever it is. Well, And I don't really see Morrissey, I don't know if you're talking about Morrissey still, I don't really see Morrissey as the biggest problem. I'm very, very interested. I really see the state police, and I'm very interested in what, if anything, Farwell is giving up. Because if Farwell says, like, oh, yeah, here's the person that called me, and they said, when you get investigated, say this, and don't worry about the text, and say this. Okay, well, that's like a cover-up. You can't cover up something involving Farwell without telling him, I don't think. I think they probably had to go to him and talk to him, so... Yeah, Morrissey's probably harder to link into it, but the MSP, somebody had to go to him and be like, hey, like, this is what we got on you, this is what we're going to do, like, here's how we can make it go away. All right, but why would you do that for Matt Farwell? The state police get in enough trouble when they edit, like, a police report about a judge's daughter. Why would they ever, in a million years, do that, edit a report about like a cop taking the life of a child or a woman he had been abusing since she was a child? That's crazy. It's one of those things where it's hard to even conceptualize how something like that could happen. So then you have to wonder, like, all it would take is Farwell being like, yeah, here's this thing, and here's this, and here's where we met, and here's who I met with, and I mean, if his only desire is to survive and, like, somewhat have protection in prison from the feds, he only has one type of leverage, and that's the people who helped him get away with it. So, and in order to, like, give them up, you'd have to pretty much know Morrissey was leaving office and everything was changing. Okay, well, all right, we're back in session.
You are unmuted.
Please be seated for the now session.
All right, where are we, counsel?
Your Honor, we can either do the voir dire of Mr. Mutlu, or we could continue on with DNA and do sum and so on.
Well, if we go back, if we stay on DNA, which I'm happy to do, is that going to end the day, or we're going to hit Mr. Mutlu at some point today? Is he going to hit the stand at some point today?
I think DNA is going to go about another hour to 90 minutes. It could go 2 hours.
So I'm going to take it from that the answer is no.
It's possible, I guess is my answer. I don't like, I know we don't like to hedge bets, but I'm going to hedge my bet on this one because I don't want to be shy a witness when we can still do work.
Well, in light of what you've told me about the schedule, I will be happy to let the jury go at 3:30 today.
Okay.
If that happens.
Okay.
And we are still on the same schedule.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, we are.
All right, well, we'll talk about that again at the end of the day.
Yes, Your Honor.
So what I'll say with regard to that is you're in a better position to evaluate how long a voir dire would take. I don't need the jury in the building while we're doing a voir dire.
Yes.
So I guess it would be my mild preference to just continue on where we are today, talking about DNA, and then tell the jury that they can come back later in the day, tomorrow, instead of a 9 a.m. start. Maybe we'll do a 10 a.m. start for them and do the voir dire of Mr. Mutlu in that time while the jury's on their own time and not on our time. How does that all sound?
That sounds like a very good idea, Your Honor. And I can tell you, I have the keeper of records from Home Goods here just in case. And that would take about 20 minutes if we did end below.
All right. And how long, I won't hold you to it, but Mr. Mutlu's voir dire, as I understand it, and frankly, I had to remind myself through the pleadings what exactly it is we were voir diring him on. Now that I have reminded myself of what we're voir diring him on, how long do you anticipate, and I'll go to your brother in a second, but how long do you anticipate it will take you to present that evidence?
I think about 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the outside, Your Honor.
All right. I was thinking it was relatively short. I was checking to make sure that there wasn't a big disconnect between my expectations and what you're thinking. Do you agree, Attorney Tipton? Do you agree, Attorney Porges?
I do.
All right. So there's other matters we could handle in the morning tomorrow as well. Be prepared for those, including what I said to you at the side of the bench the other day with regard to the first 2 or 3 pages that I was looking for from you. Do you understand?
We do, Your Honor.
Attorney Tipton? Excellent. All right, we can bring the jury in. Hold them up for a minute. Not you, them. I just don't want the Commonwealth not at their desk.
Thank you.
You're all set now. Thank you.
Actually, I don't think there's a problem. I disagree with that. That's the way you should do it.
All rise for the court, please. Jurors entering. This dude's a creep. The more I look at him, the less I like anything about him. That rosary thing was fucking creepy too. This dude's a fucking menace.
Commonwealth may call its next witness.
The Commonwealth would call Saman Salim.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you'll give in the cause now in hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You can be seated.
Right this way. Just watch your step.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury by stating your full name and spelling your name?
My name is Saman Salim, S-A-M-A-N. Last name is S-A-L-E-E-M.
And could you please tell us your educational background?
I have a bachelor's degree from Boston College in biochemistry and a master's of science in forensic science from Boston University.
And what is your occupation, ma'am?
I currently work as a forensic scientist 3 at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab within the DNA unit.
And what is a forensic scientist 3?
A forensic scientist 3 is a supervisory position within the DNA unit, where I manage other analysts, forensic scientist 1 and 2, that work within the DNA unit.
So how many people do you supervise?
I supervise 6 people currently.
And what are your responsibilities in supervising those people?
As a supervisor, I manage their caseload by assigning them cases to work on in the laboratory, as well as for interpretation of DNA profiles for evidence items that are submitted to the DNA unit. I also train them in the methodologies for DNA testing. For example, if there's any new hires in our laboratory, I would be part of their training program where I would teach them about the laboratory work that's conducted, as well as give them presentations on the theoretical background of DNA testing. In addition to that, I also work on my own cases, so where I'm assigned cases by my manager, and I do the interpretation of DNA testing on those cases and review the cases of other people and what they've worked on.
And how long have you been employed at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab?
I've been there approximately 10 years.
Do you have any specialized training to be a DNA analyst?
When I first began at the DNA unit 10 years ago, I went through an 8-month-long training program where I learned about the theoretical discipline of forensic DNA testing, as well as the practical application of it. I tested mock evidence samples in the laboratory to determine what those DNA profiles were and learned about how to do that testing. Additionally, since that training, every year we go through continuing education where we learn about new methodologies that we're adopting in the laboratory, and also any kind of changes that are happening in the field of forensic DNA analysis.
So you said that you've had testing, is that correct?
I'm sorry, yes.
Have you had testing?
Yes.
And what kind of testing have you had?
So every time there's a new technology adopted or there's new training that I go through, at the end of that training, we do a competency test where we are tested on if we have understood that methodology by taking a written exam or oral exam, as well as a practical exam in the laboratory. In addition to that, twice a year, we go through proficiency testing.
So have you passed the competency testing that you've taken?
Yes, I have.
And you said that twice a year you have proficiency testing. Who monitors that or provides that proficiency testing?
So the proficiency test sample and the answers for those items of evidence, the DNA profiles we obtained, are submitted back to that external agency who will then grade us to ensure that we obtain the correct DNA profiles.
And have you passed that proficiency testing?
Yes, I've passed all the ones I've taken over the 10 years.
Thank you. Are you familiar with lab case 23-00596?
Yes, I am.
And what type of DNA testing was conducted in this case?
In this case, we conducted a type of testing known as STR DNA testing, which follows a 4-step process in the laboratory, at the end of which we will obtain a DNA profile.
Okay, so just generally, can you discuss that 4-step process?
Generally, that 4-step process starts with extraction in the first step, where we break open the cells in which the DNA is found. This is similar to like cracking open an egg, where the DNA is found within the yolk of it, and we extract that DNA. We use heat and chemicals to do this. The second step is known as quantitation, where we determine how much DNA is present in that sample so that we can proceed with the next step. The next step is known as amplification. In that third step, we make millions and millions of copies of the DNA that is found there, targeting certain locations within the DNA. In this case, we target 26 locations that are found throughout the chromosome, as well as a sex-determining locus as well. And then the last step is capillary electrophoresis. During that step, we analyze those copies of DNA to generate a DNA profile, which can then be interpreted for comparison purposes.
And then once the raw data is generated, you said that you're able to make some comparison here?
Yes.
And how is that done generally?
So generally, the first thing we would do is interpret the DNA profile, which means that we would observe that DNA profile to see what is in that DNA profile. So what are the different characteristics of the DNA that we're observing at these 26 locations that we have tested? We will determine how many individuals are in this mixture, so the number of people that make up this DNA profile. Is it coming from one person or multiple individuals? And then that profile, once we've determined what it is, we can compare it to a known standard or somebody whose DNA profile we know to see if they would be included in that sample or excluded from it.
And in this case, 23-00596, there were many items that were tested by multiple people in the lab for DNA testing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And all of those people did the 4-step process. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what was your role here?
At the end of that 4-step process, data is generated on a computer. At the end of that process, my role comes in at that point where I look at that data. So it comes off in a form that we have to interpret using a software program. So that's where my role starts, where I interpret that data.
So I'm now going to start to ask you about what you did here and about each individual piece of data that you looked at with each individual item that you looked at. Is that okay?
That's okay.
So let's start with the first round of testing and the first items that you looked at. I want to ask you about item 9-27.2.1. What is that item, ma'am?
Do you mind if I look at my notes?
You may look at your
about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walshe.
Yes. The DNA profile from this item is at least 270 million times more likely if it originated from Anna Walshe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown unrelated individuals. This provides support for an inclusion of Anna Walshe to this profile.
So what does that mean?
So the statistic we report is known as a likelihood ratio. The first part of this is determining what the DNA profile is. In this case, the DNA profile is a mixture of 3 contributors, meaning that the profile that was observed on this item came from 3 individuals. In this profile, when we do a comparison, we compare the characteristics at each of these 26 locations to see if the profile that is Anna Walshe's profile matches those or is consistent with the ones that are observed in the DNA profile. And through the statistical analysis, what we learned is that it is at least 270 million times more likely to observe this DNA profile if it originated from Anna Walshe than if it did not, and 2 other individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown unrelated individuals. The likelihood ratio is a statistical calculation that shows us how likely it is to observe a DNA profile given two propositions. One, that the person would be included in the DNA profile, or the other, that the person is excluded or not included in the DNA profile. And the value of that likelihood ratio can tell us which of these propositions is more likely to observe this DNA profile given either of these propositions.
So how do you calculate the likelihood ratio?
That is calculated using a software known as STRmix or StarMix. And in that software, we use calculations that we derive from the general population of how common or rare certain characteristics are at these 26 locations observed. And we use that in the general population in the US, and we use that information to calculate the likelihood ratio.
Can you explain when you said this was a mixture of 3 contributors?
So that just means that the DNA profile that we observed at these 26 locations, what I observed is that I would see DNA from multiple people, in this case, 3 individuals. We receive half our DNA from our mother and half from our father. So we would expect to see for a single source profile or something coming from one person would either have one characteristic or 2 characteristics at each of these locations. In some of these locations, I saw 5 or 6 characteristics, which means that there's at least 3 people here in this mixture.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walshe?
Yes. The DNA profile from this item is at least 12 quintillion times more likely if it originated from Brian Walshe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown unrelated individuals. And this provides support for an inclusion.
What is a quintillion?
Quintillion is 1 followed by 18 zeros.
Can you tell when the DNA was contributed?
I cannot, to the testing that we do, we cannot determine when or how the DNA was deposited on an evidence item.
Does DNA have to be contributed at the same time?
No, it does not.
Moving to item 9-27.3.1. Can you tell me what that item is?
That was a sample from stain A on the exterior top left of the gray slipper, bag number 4 at 300 Forest Street.
And can you tell me what's the DNA profile result for this item?
This DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 2 contributors, including male DNA.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walshe?
Yes. The DNA profile from this item is at least 16 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Anna Walshe and an unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unknown unrelated individuals, and this provides support for an inclusion of Anna Walshe to this profile.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walshe?
The DNA profile from this item is at least 77 times more likely if it originated from Brian Walshe and an unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unknown individuals, unknown unrelated individuals. This provides limited support for an inclusion. Our DNA unit validation studies have shown that there is an inclusion of non-contributors in this range, likelihood ratio range of about 2 to 1,000. And adventitious support could be attributed to this conclusion.
So what does that mean?
So when we do these calculations for the likelihood ratio, we're relying on the DNA profile that we observed in that evidence item. The more data we have there, that means the more of these 26 locations where we observed this DNA profile, the higher the statistic will be for an inclusion. And that's because there's more support and more data observed. When there is limited support for an inclusion, it means that the data for that contributor in that mixture, so it doesn't mean everyone in that mixture had less DNA, just that one or more contributors had less DNA available there for comparison, so the statistic is lower because of it. In our validation studies, what we did see, because all humans do share some DNA with each other, that we would see some non-contributors, meaning that people who really shouldn't, we made mixtures where we knew who was in those mixtures. And so we would have some non-contributors get a positive likelihood ratio that's inclusionary, show that they're included when they really shouldn't be included. And it's because they happen to have some alleles that are common with what was observed in the DNA profile. So in this case, for the statistic, even though there is support for an inclusion, that support is limited, meaning that there is less data available.
What is an anillion?
An anillion is 1 followed by 30 zeros.
What type of cells is DNA found in?
It is found in all kinds of biological cells that we have, such as our blood cells, which are our white blood cells, our hair cells, skin cells, saliva, anything we could have in our body that has a nucleus. Any cell that has a nucleus would have DNA in it.
And what of those is potentially found in a shoe?
From a shoe, it could be if there's a biological process that's deposited on there, that biological fluid could contribute DNA, or more typically for clothing and shoes, it would be from skin cells that are from wearing that shoe multiple times.
Do your results tell you what type of cells these came from?
No, they do not.
And do the individuals have to contribute the same type of cells?
No, they do not. One of the things that could cause a mixture of DNA profiles is if there's different types of cells from different individuals that are contributing to the same evidence item.
What is item 9-32.1.1?
That is a sample of an interior sleeve cuff of a Tyvek suit that was found in bag number 6 at 300 Forest Street.
And what was the DNA profile result for this item?
The DNA profile for this item was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors, including male DNA.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walsh?
The DNA profile from this item is at least 4.8 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Anna Walsh and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown unrelated individuals, and this provides support for an inclusion.
And were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walsh?
Yes, the DNA profile from this item is at least 100 trillion times more likely if it originated from Brian Walsh and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown unrelated individuals, and this provides support for an inclusion.
So when you say things like this supply provides support for an inclusion, is that standard language that you're using?
Yes.
And standard language for whom?
The standard language for forensic DNA analysis in general, and then at our laboratory, we've adopted this language as part of it. Many laboratories would use very similar language.
What is item 9-32.2.1?
Sample from stain A of the exterior left pant leg of the Tyvek suit from bag number 6 at 300 4th Street.
And is this the same Tyvek suit that we just discussed previously in 9-32.1.1?
Yes.
And what was the DNA profile result for this item?
For this item, there was the DNA profile was a female DNA profile originating from a single contributor.
And were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walsh?
Yes, the DNA profile is at least 30 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Anna Walsh than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual, and this provides support for an inclusion.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walsh?
Brian Walsh is excluded from this single source female DNA profile.
What does that mean?
So the single source DNA profile is probably the easiest ones for us to do a comparison because we should be able to see if the single source profile we have from the evidence matches the one profile we have from our known standard or the reference we have. So when I say somebody's excluded, it means that the 2 profiles don't match each other.
What is item 9-32.5.1?
And that is a sample from stain D on the interior right sleeve of the Tyvek suit.
And is this the same Tyvek suit as discussed with items 3 and 4 that we previously discussed?
Yes.
But is this a different stain?
Yes.
And what was the DNA profile result for this item?
The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 2 contributors, including male DNA.
And were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walsh?
The DNA profile from this item is at least 110 sextillion times more likely if it originated from Anna Walsh and an unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unknown unrelated individuals, and this provides support for an inclusion.
And what is sextillion?
A sextillion is 1 followed by 21 zeros.
I'm sorry.
21 zeros.
Thank you. Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walsh?
Yes, the DNA profile from this item is estimated to be 6 times more likely if it originated from 2 unrelated individuals than if it originated from Brian Walsh and an unknown individual. This provides limited support for an exclusion. Similar to before, the MSPCL DNA unit validation studies have shown that exclusions for the inverse likelihood ratio range of 2 to 1,000 have shown known contributors could be excluded, and adventitious support could be attributed to this conclusion.
So what is limited support for exclusion?
So it's very similar to the inclusion one I described in our validation studies. We also looked at profiles where since we knew who those mixtures were made of, those individuals, we would compare this to those individuals. And when there's limited data available, again, for comparison for one or more of the contributors in a mixture profile, the statistic would be lower, but it's on the exclusion side. And when it is a lower statistic on the exclusion side, we would like to report it as a number, just so we can be clear that there's a possibility that somebody who is truly meant to be in this mixture would be actually excluded from it because of there being limited data for support. So in this case, there is support for an exclusion, but there is only 6 times more likely for that support. The likelihood ratio, it's in that range of 2 to 1,000 again.
What is item 16-13.1?
This was an unknown tissue that recovered from the Swampscott dumpster.
And what was the DNA profile result for this item?
This was a female DNA profile originating from a single contributor.
And were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walsh?
The DNA profile from this item is at least 30 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Anna Walsh than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual, and this provides support for an inclusion.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walsh?
Brian Walsh is excluded from this DNA profile.
So I want to move on now to the next round of DNA testing. What is item 5-1.1?
This is a sample from swabs of red-brown stain K on a basement floor in 516 Chief Justice Cushing Highway.
And what was the DNA profile result for this item?
This DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 2 contributors, including male DNA.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walsh?
The DNA profile from this item is at least 15 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Anna Walsh and an unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unknown, unrelated individuals. And again, this provides support for inclusion of Anna Walsh to this DNA profile.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walsh?
Brian Walsh is excluded from this DNA profile.
What is item 7-10.3.1?
This was a sample of stained area C on the blade of a hacksaw, placard number 8, 300 Forest Street.
And what was the DNA profile result for this item?
For this item, a female DNA profile was obtained originating from a single contributor.
And were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walsh?
The DNA profile from this item is at least 30 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Anna Walsh than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual, and this provides support for inclusion of Anna Walsh to this DNA profile.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walsh?
Brian Walsh is excluded from this DNA profile.
What is item 7-10.4.1?
That is a sample of the handle of the hacksaw, placard number 8 at 300 Forest Street.
And what was the DNA profile result for this item?
The female DNA profile was obtained originating from a single contributor.
And were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walsh?
The DNA profile from this item is at least 30 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Anna Walsh than from an unknown, unrelated individual, and this provides support that Anna Walsh is included in this DNA profile.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walsh?
Brian Walsh is excluded from this DNA profile.
If I may have one moment, Your Honor.
You may.
What is item 9-22.1.1?
That is sample from stain A on a white towel, number 1, with red-brown stains on it. That was found in bag number 2 at 300 Forest Street.
And what was the DNA profile result for this item?
There was a female DNA profile observed originating from a single contributor.
And were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walsh?
The DNA profile from this item is at least 30 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Anna Walsh than from an unknown, unrelated individual. This provides support for inclusion of Anna Walsh to this DNA profile.
And were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walsh?
Brian Walsh is excluded from this DNA profile.
What is item 9-28.1.1?
This was a sample of stained area A on apparent hairs found in bag number 4 at 300 Forest Street.
What was the DNA profile result for this item?
There was a female DNA profile observed on this item originating from a single contributor.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walsh?
The DNA profile is at least 30 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Anna Walsh than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual. This provides support for inclusion of Anna Walsh to this DNA profile.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walsh?
Brian Walsh is excluded from this DNA profile.
What is item 9-31.1?
That is a sample from cutting of red-brown stain on a piece of rug from bag number 5 at 300 Forest Street.
And what was the DNA profile result for this item?
There was a female DNA profile observed originating from a single contributor.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walsh?
The DNA profile from this item is at least 30 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Anna Walsh than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual. This provides support for inclusion of Anna Walsh to this DNA profile.
And were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walsh?
Brian Walsh is excluded from this DNA profile.
Moving on to the third round of DNA testing. What is item 7-13.1?
It is a sample from area A on the head of a hatchet, placard number 8 at 300 Forest Street.
And what was the DNA profile result from this item?
There was a female DNA profile observed originating from a single contributor.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walsh?
The DNA profile from this item is at least 33 nonillion times more likely if it originated from Anna Walsh than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual, and this provides support for an inclusion of Anna Walsh to this DNA profile.
Were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walsh?
Brian Walsh is excluded from this DNA profile.
What is item 7-13.2.1?
That is the sample from the handle of the hatchet, placard number 8 at 300 Forest Street.
And what was the DNA profile result for this item?
The DNA profile from this item was interpreted as a mixture of 2 contributors. Due to limited information available, contributor 2 was deemed not suitable for comparison purposes.
So, were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walsh?
Yes, the DNA profile from this item is at least 2.6 octillion times more likely if it originated from Anna Walsh and an unknown individual, than if it originated from two unrelated individuals. And this provides support for the inclusion of Anna Walsh to this profile.
And what does it mean, due to limited information, contributor 2 is not suitable for comparison?
It just means that in this mixture DNA profile, the data that is observed for one of these two contributors is so low level that we would not be able to make a comparison to any known reference standards. So we test 26 locations. We require in our DNA processing that data must be observed at a minimum of 3 locations for us to be able to do any comparisons to it. In this case, data was observed at less than 3 locations for this second contributor.
And what is an octillion?
An octillion is 1 followed by 27 zeros.
And you said that you were able to provide support for Anna Walsh, but were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walsh?
Brian Walsh is excluded from the first contributor that's suitable for comparison in this DNA profile.
So what does that mean?
So since it's a mixture of 2 contributors and I can only compare one of the 2, that one contributor, the DNA profile shows that it's the likelihood ratio shows support for inclusion of Anna Walsh to this profile, but Brian Walsh is excluded from that suitable for comparison first contributor in this profile.
What was item 9-20.1?
That was sample from stain A on tape with apparent gauze with red-brown stains on it, found in bag number 2 at 300 Forest Street.
And what was the DNA profile result for this item?
There was a male DNA profile obtained on this item originating from a single contributor.
And were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Anna Walsh?
Anna Walsh was excluded from this DNA profile.
And were you able to come to a conclusion about the comparison to the known profile of Brian Walsh?
The DNA profile is at least 23 octillion times more likely if it originated from Brian Walsh than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual, and this provides support that Brian Walsh is included as a contributor to this DNA profile.
And what is an octillion?
An octillion is 1 followed by 27 zeros.
I might have one moment, Your Honor.
Yes. Cross.
Good afternoon.
I think you said it in your in some of your answers in regards to the first round of testing that you testified to. And was that testing, was the report issued on January 13th of 2023?
Yes, that's correct.
And in the context of some of your answers to the testing results that you told this jury about, for instance, sample 9-27.2.1 at paragraph 1 on page 2, you indicate that it was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors.
That's correct.
Now, as you were explaining that and some of the other conclusions and the results of testing, you used the phrase at least 3 people, correct?
That's correct.
So when you write this report and you include the phrase, the DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors, it's more accurate to say the DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of at least 3 contributors?
No, when we are doing our testing, we are using the information that we have in our profile. And in order to do any comparison analysis or further any kind of interpretation on it, we have to determine the number of contributors. So in this case, the data that I observed showed that there was 3 individuals in this. There could be more, but it's not in the data that I observed.
There could be more, though.
Yes, obviously the instrumentation we use, there could be contributors that are there that are not detected, but the ones that I observed, the profile showed a mixture of 3 contributors, which is how I interpreted this profile.
And when you interpret the number of mixtures, like you've just explained to the jury, am I right in saying that since we each inherit 1 allele from our father at a particular locus and 1 allele from our mother, then we typically have 2 different alleles at that one particular locus. Is that fair to say?
We could have 1 or 2 alleles at a locus, depends on if you inherit the same characteristic from both the mother and the father, or you inherit 2 different characteristics from the mother and the father.
And when you inherit the same allele, your father gives you the same allele as your mother, that would be a homozygote. That would be another way to frame that.
That's correct. That's a scientific term for that.
As opposed to 2 different alleles. Your mother gave you 1 allele, your father gave you a different allele, then you'd be considered a heterozygote at that locus.
That's correct.
So what you're doing is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, what you're doing is you're looking at all the alleles that you have in front of you on a particular sample, and you're trying to determine how many, and once again, correct me if I'm wrong, you're trying to determine how many peaks you have at a particular locus. And for instance, if you had, 2 heterozygotes combined in a 2-part mixture, you would probably expect to see 4 different alleles there?
If we were looking at a mixture of 2 contributors, we would expect to see up 3 or 4 characteristics at the location. When we are looking at the DNA profile, he mentioned the word peaks. They kind of look like an EKG. If you can imagine like peaks and valleys on an EKG, that's what our data looks like. And so when we're looking at that, we are trying to just not only look at how many of those peaks are present, but what the level of each of those peaks is, because that can also tell us if it's coming from different individuals. So you would expect that if the same individual is contributing DNA to it at all of these 26 locations, they would contribute similar amounts of DNA at all the 26 locations. And so if we see some high peaks in one location and low peaks in a different one, that could also tell us that there is a mixture present as well. So not only looking at the number of peaks that are present, but also the level of these peaks.
And so there are some assumptions being made about the way you interpret the data.
The assumptions we're making is based in science that we inherit half our DNA from our mother and half from our DNA, half our DNA from our father. So we expect to see 1 or 2 alleles or peaks at each of these locations. So we're using that information to then assess the profile to see how many contributors are in this profile. And
without complicating this too much, and I don't intend to do that, but there is observed in DNA testing data, not just at a particular allele, 1 allele if it's a homozygote or 2 alleles if it's a heterozygote, but there's actually times when there's a triallelic allele, all right?
That's correct.
And so that's all I meant about the assumptions. And I understand they're scientifically based, but there are assumptions being made, correct?
Right. So if there is something like a triallelic pattern, there is a pattern to them, and we do know what those patterns look like. And what triallelic is that during the process, during the cell formation that happens, there's a mutation that occurs in the DNA that causes an extra copy to be present, either of either the allele from your mother, or the allele from your father, or a form of that allele. And that would cause, instead of seeing 1 or 2 peaks, we would see 3 peaks present for that person. But those usually have a pattern to them, and we can look at that, especially in single source profiles, and determine that. I did not observe any such things in the profiles that I saw in this testing that we did.
It's very clear, isn't it, that you have in a lot of these samples, if not most of these samples, you have concluded that a profile that was associated with Anna Walsh from a known sample, you could see the same profile in many of these samples, correct?
For any of the ones that were single source contributors, meaning there's only one person, that's where I can make that exact matching from the reference.
And then the ones that are mixtures?
The ones that are mixtures, those we would have to compare the whole profile as a whole. So it wouldn't always just be a matching of the two different peaks that we see. It would be a matching of looking at that plus the information we have on the levels of that contribution to see how likely it is to observe that profile if they were included in this mixture versus not included in this mixture.
Thank you. We appreciate your very clear answers. And what I would like to ask you now is something that you said early on direct examination. Your DNA testing and your results that you're reporting to this jury, it does not inform you of how a particular biological substance or a nuclear cell that resulted in the DNA profile, how it was deposited on that particular object that appears here in the reports, correct?
That's correct. We cannot determine how the DNA was deposited.
And if I were to tell you and suggest to you that for many of these items that were tested, if they were found combined with other items in a bag, and those other items came into contact with each other, you would agree with me that you can't tell this jury if the biological substance that was tested on one object might not have been transferred simply from another object that it came into contact with in that bag, correct?
Overruled.
That's correct. It could be transferred from one item to another item in a bag.
And would that transfer, that word you just used, would that transfer also occur if two items or more were placed in a single bag, and then that bag was actually compressed by a compactor that compressed that bag very tightly to reduce its size? Would it be even more likely that there would be a, quote, transfer between those two objects of biological material?
Objection to the hypotheticals?
Rephrase your question.
Would transfer be more likely if two or more objects were placed in a bag, placed after that into a compactor, and compressed together where the items within that bag were compressed together?
Objection, same question.
Same result.
If two items come into contact with each other, there's a possibility of transfer of biological material on those two items, correct?
That's correct.
And does the possibility of transfer between two items, would it increase if those items are pressed together tightly for a period of time?
I'm not sure if the chances would increase or decrease if they're pressed together, but if two items were to come in contact with each other, there would be a likely transfer of DNA.
So based on all of your conclusions based on all of your observations of the data and the results here, once again, you can't say how any of the biological material was deposited on any of these items, correct?
That's correct.
And you cannot tell the jury, and it's the limitation of the DNA testing, you can't tell when it was deposited, correct?
That's correct.
And for instance, if there is a particular object like a tool, let's say a hatchet, you cannot tell from your DNA testing if that hatchet actually ever came into contact with the biological material.
Objection.
I didn't finish, but maybe I'll start over again. Let me start over again. The DNA testing on a particular object does not tell you that that object was ever used against a person whose DNA profile appears on that object?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, you have told us that the biological substance that was tested does not tell you anything about how that biological substance got on that item, correct?
That's correct. The DNA testing that we do cannot tell us how or when the DNA was deposited on an item.
And I think you told us this on direct, but I just want to make sure I understood it completely. The DNA testing that you conducted here on the biological samples, that can result, the DNA profile can result from any nucleated cell, correct?
That's correct.
And so we heard you refer to skin cells, correct?
That's correct.
And we heard you refer to blood cells, correct?
Yes, except for red blood cells, all other types of blood cells do have nucleuses.
Okay. And so when you are given samples to test, you do not determine in your laboratory, and you can't determine based on your DNA results, whether your DNA results are the result of a profile coming from a skin cell or a blood cell or some other nucleated cell, correct?
That's correct. We would not be able to determine the cell type from which that DNA profile was obtained.
And even though sometimes you might get a sample that's identified as a red-brown stain on an item, especially an item of clothing, even if you got a full profile from that particular stain, you still don't know if the profile you got came from epithelial cells or skin cells versus blood cells, correct?
That's correct. We would not know if it came from any blood cells that were present on that item or skin cells that might have been present on that item as well.
And on sample 7-13.2.1, I think that's the sample that you explained to the jury that it was a mixture of two contributors, correct?
That's correct.
And even though you concluded that it was a mixture of two contributors, you said that due to the limited information, the contributor two, and you put in, you actually referred to it as contributors, and you put the S at the end of contributor in parentheses, contributors, two is not suitable for comparison, correct?
So a contributor is just one contributor. Contributor two is not suitable. The reason there's a parentheses S there is because we use similar conclusions when we have multiple contributors that may not be suitable for comparison. The wording that we use, like I said, it's from our protocols that is designed to sort of kind of cover all different types of DNA profiles that we can see. So in similar conclusions can be written where we would say contributors 2 and 3 would not be suitable for comparison, which is why there is a parentheses S there. In this case, the only contributor that I'm talking about that is not suitable for comparison is contributor 2.
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Redirect.
Nothing, thank you.
You may step down.
Thank you.
See you at the side of the bench.
What, did the state run out of witnesses again? How fast are we going? We must be way ahead of schedule in this trial. I'm going to have to keep an eye on Tipton's style when he's talking to, different witnesses. Apparently Nancy has observed he gets a little louder with the male witnesses. I am trying to figure out if the state's early on their witness list. I think they are actually very, very early. I think, in the sense, I think they're flying through their witness list. You have to have witnesses ready, and I think they, are working on that right now. So, Judge will obviously. Judge doesn't like when the state runs out of witnesses, so if you see Judge get a little cranky, that could be the reason. But if Judge just comes back and says, oh, we're on a good schedule, then Judge is fine with it. If there is another witness, maybe we'll go right into it. I know we got to start late at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Well, the jury will start late. We'll be in at 9, but there's a voir dire about some of the DNA. And yes, my name is Grant Smith Ellis, and we are watching the end of the day in the Brian Walshe trial. Appreciate those of you who have been joining in. We've had some very interesting discussions about the different styles in this case. We talked about Nancy's dog, Abby, doing better. Abby, I hope you're doing well. And Abby also got some goggles for the New England winter. That's wonderful. Let's see. Surprisingly, so I'm looking at the witness list now. We're through a good chunk of it. I didn't watch yesterday, so I don't know how many of those witnesses we've gone through. I'd say there's about 20 witnesses left. I could be getting this completely wrong because the list is all over the place. It doesn't go in order. But the state's case, I mean, a couple more days, and the defense only has 6 witnesses listed here. One of them is Michael Proctor. Who knows if he will actually testify. And I'm not exactly sure when the defense's case is going to start. Peggy says Team Peep. We do love Peep Bunny Towel. He's here. You want me to get Peep? Where are you, Peep? Peep, you have been requested. Would you like to say hello to your adoring fans? There's Peep. He's very proud of me. There will be no celebration dinner. There will be no cake. There will be nothing for me, other than all your wonderful words on social media, of course. But I mean, in terms of me and Peep, no, he's just going to tell me I did a good job graduating law school. And he's happy to see Peggy and Nancy and Bossy Texas Chick. How are you all doing? Peep and I are enjoying the afternoon. I'm pretty exhausted after that final, though. Well, I'll probably get going right after the stream ends today. Yes, Peep is here. He is saying hello to his people. You see what I'm saying? He's a Peep Bunny Towel, but he's saying hello. He's very, very glad to see you all. Someone was like, Grant, you can't keep calling yourself a towel after graduating or finishing your last class. And I said, yes, I can. No, so yeah, there will be no celebration. I don't even think anyone in my real life is going to say congratulations. It's kind of sad, but it is what
Commonwealth
it
may
is.
call its next witness.
Next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Commonwealth would call Michael Roddy.
I don't know who this witness is. All right, Peep, you ready to watch?
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you shall give in the cause now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you, sir.
Right this way. A little bit more. There you go.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Sure. It's Michael Roddy, R-O-D-D-Y.
And where do you work, sir?
I work for Home Goods.
And what do you do for Home Goods?
I'm a district loss prevention manager.
And can you tell us what is Home Goods?
It's the place you go when you want to buy stuff for your home.
Okay. So I take it by buying stuff for your home, it's a retail store.
It is.
Okay. Now, Home Goods, is it part of a larger corporation or umbrella of stores?
It is. It falls under TJX, which also has TJ Maxx, Marshalls, HomeSense, and Sierra.
And how long have you been with Home Goods, sir?
Home Goods itself, 9 years, TJX 19.
And can you tell us about your responsibilities for Home Goods?
Sure. At 4, it's really protecting the assets of the company and the business.
And so, how many, do you have a geographic region that you're responsible for?
I do. I cover 11 locations.
And of those 11 locations, are you familiar with a location in Norwell?
I am.
What location does Home Goods have in Norwell?
It's store number 122 in Norwell. I believe it's on Washington Street, Washington.
And that store in Norwell, are there any other TJX properties in that same plaza?
There's TJ Maxx right next to it. Same plaza.
Now, sir, are you familiar with surveillance videos that were turned over by Home Goods in this matter?
I am.
And have you had the chance to review them prior to coming to court today?
I have.
Have they been altered in any way?
They have not.
Now, sir, Home Goods, does it maintain its surveillance videos in good faith?
It does.
And does it do so in the normal course of business?
It does.
And when it's surveillance videos, I take it they're recorded digitally, correct?
They are.
So when they're recorded, they're going to a server?
They do.
And who has access to the server of surveillance videos?
Myself, direct reports of mine, and home office loss prevention.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Mr. Roddy, do you recognize this thumb drive I'm showing you?
I do.
Did you have the opportunity to review the videos from this thumb drive?
I did.
And they have videos from the Norwell Home Goods store for January 2nd and January 4th.
Yes, they do.
The Commonwealth would seek to have this drive with the Home Goods surveillance videos for January 2nd and 4th marked as the next exhibit.
Any objection to that?
No.
I believe we're at 251, is that correct, Madam Court Reporter? That thumb drive is now admitted into evidence. The Home Goods Norwell thumb drive.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, with the court's permission, could the Commonwealth publish videos from the drive?
Yes, you may.
So, Ms. Gilman, could we have the first video for January 2nd of entrance? And if you could pause right there, Ms. Gilman. Mr. Roddy, what is it that we're looking at here?
This is the camera. It's a public view monitor. When you walk into the building, this is the one you can see yourself on.
Now, Mr. Roddy, the date and time at the bottom for Home Goods, are those accurate or are they off in any way?
No, those are accurate.
Ms. Gilman, if you could press play. Ms. Gilman, could we have the second video register home? And Mr. Roddy, where is this in the store in Norwell?
So that is the front in our queue line. It's another public view monitor as you're walking towards the registers.
And when you say queue line, so are there items for sale in this line?
There are, yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could stop for the record, we're stopping at 1 minute and 16 seconds on the media player. And Ms. Gilman, could you go to the third video, purchase home? Mr. Roddy, where is this in the store?
That is the register. I believe that's register number 8, and it's a camera right above the registers behind them.
Ms. Gilman, if you could close out of that video and bring us to the 4th one. And pause if you could. Mr. Roddy, where is this in the Norwell store?
So that is an exit mullion. It's in the vestibule between both sets of doors to go outside.
Ms. Gilman, if you could press play, please. And Mr. Roddy, what is the time upon exit? If you need to see it again, we could just bring it back up.
Yes, please.
Ms. Gilman, if you could. What is the time upon exit for the record?
9:48 and 2 seconds.
And it's January 2nd?
January 2nd.
Your Honor, may the Commonwealth approach?
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Roddy, you recognize this document I'm handing to you?
I do.
What is this?
This is a receipt for a purchase on January 2nd.
Does Home Goods maintain its receipts in good faith?
It does.
Normal course of business?
Yes.
And I take it it's generated at the point that the sale occurs?
Correct, once it's completed.
And this was also turned over to law enforcement in January 2023?
It was.
The Commonwealth would seek to have the receipt from January 2nd the receipt from January 2nd at Home Goods as the next exhibit, Your Honor.
Any objection? The home goods receipt from January the 2nd is now in evidence as 252.
Your Honor, may the Commonwealth publish 252?
You may.
Thank you. Mr. Roddy, I have some questions about 252, Exhibit 252. At the top, it says TGX. Is that generated internally, or is that what's given to the customer?
That is internally.
And so the customer would get a home goods at the top.
It would say home goods, correct.
In store 280122, is that the Norwell store we were talking about?
Yes, that's the Norwell location.
And now, sir, what does POS 8 mean? POS 8?
That is register number 8, point of sale.
And then cashier, the number, and then there's a name underneath it. What is the significance of that?
The cashier number is the identifier to the associate who's ringing the register.
And sir, are you familiar with the codes with the S underneath them next to the items?
Yes, those are the department numbers.
What is the 35 significant of, S35?
Department 35 is our candle department.
And going further down, what is S75 significant of?
Those are rolled rugs.
What was the total for the sale, sir?
Total's $245.35.
And how was it transacted? Was it cash or charge?
It looks like 2 store value cards were used.
What are store value cards? And I'm sorry, I was interrupting you.
No, those are just, they're cards. They work just like a gift card would work. Same thing.
And if we could scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's a date and time.
Yes, January 2nd, 2023, 9:44 and 36 seconds in the AM.
So keeping this up on the redemption area, you had mentioned there are store value cards?
Yes.
So with these store value card numbers, were you able to track down when these cards were issued and where?
Yes, we were.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Mr. Roddy, I'm showing you a document. Do you recognize that?
Yes, it's another receipt.
It's another receipt, but is it from Home Goods in Norwell?
It is not. It's from Marshall's.
And this Marshall's receipt, what does it have to do with the store value cards?
So this looks like a return without a receipt at a Marshall's in Maryland. So when a return is done without a receipt, the customer receives a store value card, a store credit.
And on this receipt, does it denote the last 4 digits of the store value card?
It does.
And so, sir, understanding that, do they bear any similarity to the redemption cards used on your on this receipt that was done on January 2nd?
Yes, it does. On here, it shows the last 4 is 0256, which matched the purchase receipt.
And as a result of being a member of the TGX umbrella, are you able to get access to the Marshall's receipts to find out which card was issued in corresponding to the redemption that was done on January 2nd?
Yes, we can see each brand.
And this is the card that was issued, that was one of the 2 cards that was issued to do that redemption?
Correct.
The Commonwealth would seek to have this receipt from Marshall's as the next exhibit, Your Honor.
Any objection? The Marshall's receipt. Is there a date on that so I can identify it for the record?
Yes, Your Honor. I apologize. The Marshall's receipt, sir, before I get the date wrong, can you just...
It is December 28th, 2022.
Thank you.
Marshall's receipt from December 28th, 2022 is now in evidence as Exhibit 253.
Your Honor, may I publish Exhibit 253, the Marshall's receipt from, it's labeled Baltimore receipt.
You may.
Thank you. Mr. Roddy, what's been marked as 253, where is the location of the Marshalls?
It shows it's in Baltimore, Maryland.
And this is the type of receipt a customer would receive, right? Because it doesn't have the TGX brand at the top?
Correct.
And what is the name of the customer?
Anna Walshe.
And could we scroll all the way down to the bottom? Pause, I'm sorry. So in there's issue of merchandise credit. Is that the card that you were speaking of?
It is.
Okay. And could we go all the way down to the bottom? And, sir, can you tell us what you see as far as a date and time for the receipt?
Yes, it's December 28th, 2022. And the time is 4:30 p.m.
So, sir, that was for one of the two cards ending in 0256. Were you able to find an additional receipt that corresponded to the second card?
Yes.
And before I go any further, did that card end in 4563?
It did.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Sir, do you see this document?
I do.
Is this a TGX receipt that corresponds to the issuance of the card we were just talking about as far as the second redemption card?
It does.
And again, these are kept in the normal course of business and in good faith?
Yes, they are.
The Commonwealth will seek to have this receipt marked as the next exhibit, Your Honor. This would be Washington, D.C. receipt. And can you tell me what type of store this is for? It says TGX at the top.
This one is TJX. That one I couldn't be positive about.
You can just tell me it's a TGX store, but you can't tell me the brand.
Exactly, correct.
So, but could I mark this as the TGX Washington, D.C. receipt, Your Honor?
There's a date on that one?
Mr. Roddy, can you tell us if there's a date on this one?
There is. Also, it's December 28th, 2022.
Thank you.
Any objection? The Washington DC TJX receipt 12/28/22 is in evidence as 254.
Your Honor, may I publish Exhibit 254, the Washington, D.C. receipt?
You may.
Thank you. Mr. Roddy, where is the location of this store that issued the card?
It is Washington, D.C.
And if we could scroll down, Ms. Gilman, how much was the card for? How much was issued as far as a card?
$216.44.
And what are the last four digits of the card?
4563.
And if we could continue to scroll down, where it says returned refund, is there a date as far as what is the December 2nd date that we're looking at opposed to a December 28th date?
The December 2nd date would be the date of the original purchase of the merchandise being refunded.
And so the date at the bottom, December 28th, is when the refund was actually issued?
Correct.
All right. Thank you. You can take that down, Ms. Gilman. Now, sir, you also had the opportunity to review videos from January 4th. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that is also what's already been marked into evidence. And at this point in time, Your Honor, I would seek to publish videos from January 4th, Norwell Home Goods Store.
Is that on the same thumb drive?
Same thumb drive, Your Honor.
251?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may publish it.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Gilman, can we have the first video for January 4th? And pause, Ms. Gilman. Sir, Mr. Roddy, where is this in the store?
That is the public view monitor again at the entrance.
And looking at the bottom of the image, can you see a date and time?
I can.
Can you tell us what the date and time is?
It is 9:57 a.m. on January 4th, 2023.
Ms. Gilman, could we have the second video? Mr. Roddy, what view are we looking at here, sir?
This is another register view right behind the registers.
Thank you, Ms. Gilman. Can we go to the third video in that file? Mr. Roddy, what part of the store is this?
That is the exit mullion again in the vestibule between the two doors.
And if you could pause, Ms. Gilman. What is the date and time on the video? And for the record, we're at 7 seconds on the media player.
It is 10:07 a.m. on January 4th, 2023.
If you could press play, Ms. Gilman. Thank you, Ms. Gilman. Mr. Roddy, were you able to produce a receipt for this transaction?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Roddy, is this receipt also maintained the same way that the other Norwell Home Goods receipt is maintained?
Yes.
And does this receipt correspond to the transaction for that video?
It does.
And what is the date on this receipt?
January 4th, 2023.
And at the top, this says TZX, so is that an internally produced receipt opposed to what a customer would see?
It is.
The Commonwealth would seek to have this as the next exhibit, Your Honor, January 4th receipt from Norwell Home Goods.
Any objection? The receipt from 1/4/23 from the Norwell Home Goods is now in evidence as 255.
Your Honor, if I may publish 255, the January 4th receipt.
You may.
Thank you. Mr. Roddy, I have similar questions. Going down the receipt to the body of the goods purchased, what is the significance of 36?
36 is our towel department.
And what is the significance of 68? Similar questions. Going down the receipt to the body of the goods purchased, what is the significance of 36?
36 is our towel department.
And what is the significance of 68?
68 is our bath mats or bath rugs.
And going down to the bottom of the receipt, sir, how is this transaction negotiated?
It looks like there was 2 SVCs, 2 credits used.
And was one of them the 4563 that you previously testified about?
It is.
And going down to the bottom of the, is there a date and time on the receipt?
There is January 4th, 2023 at 10:05 a.m.
And you said there was a second SVC card. Were you able to find the receipt or the transaction for that in the TGX systems that issued that second card ending in 4481?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
You may.
Thank you. Mr. Roddy, do you recognize this receipt?
I do.
Is this from a Marshall's store?
It is.
And does this receipt show the issuance of the card that you just mentioned, the second card used to transact the sale?
Yes, it does.
And what was the date that this transaction occurred that issued the card?
It was December 8th, 2022.
And where was the store, where was the Marshalls located?
Hingham, Mass.
The Commonwealth would seek to have the Hingham Marshalls in December, what was the date again, sir?
12/8/22. Any objection? The 12/8/22 Marshall's receipt is in evidence as 256.
Your Honor, may I publish 256?
You may.
Thank you. Sir, looking at this, what is the address for the Marshalls?
400 Lincoln Street in Hingham, Massachusetts.
And the initial transaction date is what, sir?
The original was December 2nd, 2022.
And going down, sir, what is the first, understanding this is not your store, so you don't know 23s, next to the item, what is the description of the item that was purchased?
Men's Best Brand.
And then the second item that was purchased?
Children's toys.
Now, sir, going down, if we could, amount due to customer is what, sir?
$155.91.
And there is a merchandise credit number ending in what, sir?
4481.
And going down, sir, going down, Ms. Gilman, all the way to the bottom, The date for it is what, sir?
December 8th, 2022.
Okay, December 8th. I'm sorry, I might have heard you as December 28th, my bad. Now, sir, on this receipt, is there a name for the customer?
If we go up. So on this one, it is a return with receipt where we don't need ID to process those.
So there's no customer name at the top like there was in the prior ones?
There is not.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Any cross?
Yes, thank you, Judge.
Right ahead.
Questions? Regarding these cards, the last couple of cards you just told the jury about. So am I right to just say that, or to suggest that there was some purchases made in or around the Maryland, D.C. area at some point in December?
Yes, I'd have to see it again. I'm not sure if it was a purchase or a return.
Okay, purchase or return. There was a transaction.
Yes.
And then whoever transacted that transaction, it's not a very good way to put it, but whoever did that, they eventually got some store credit that was applied to that card, right?
Correct.
And then they walk out to the store with that card, right?
Correct.
And then that card, of course, finds its way down to Massachusetts, and that card is eventually used in Massachusetts sometime around January of 2023, correct?
Correct.
Nothing unusual about that if a family is trading cards back and forth, correct?
Correct.
Did the Commonwealth, the state of Massachusetts here, did they ever ask you to try to get video of those transactions that occurred in December, for instance, from those Washington area?
From myself, it wasn't home goods, so not from myself. If it was from a Marshall's or TJ's district loss prevention manager, I'm unsure.
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
The witness may step down.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to suspend there for today. I thank you for your work today. I bring you some updates with regard to the schedule. Tomorrow, I'm going to have you return to the courtroom an hour later because I don't want you waiting around for me. I need to attend to other matters that don't require your attention, and so I don't want you waiting around for me to be clear. So you get a little extra time for yourself tomorrow morning. Be here for a 10 a.m. start. I expect, although I don't really know for sure, but based on what I now know, I expect that we may finish the evidence tomorrow early. And so you may have a shortened day tomorrow. I just tell you these things to keep you as best informed so things don't come as a surprise to you. They happen that way. Right? So that's the update on the schedule for tomorrow. I wish for you all a good night. And while you're having a good night, I remind you of your responsibilities, those orders. Don't do any research about this case. Don't speak to anyone about the case. Don't go on any social media or any news media of any kind. And continue to have open minds as you listen to the evidence in this case. Have a good night. See you back here at 10.
All rise for the court, please. There is closing notebooks. Follow me.
I don't have anything other than what we've discussed previously about your responsibilities of getting things to me. Other than that, I have nothing on my radar for tonight, anyway, before we suspend tonight. Does anyone need to discuss anything else?
From the Commonwealth, Your Honor. Not at this time.
All right. Well, all of you have a good night.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. We're done for the day, but what happened at the end there? Right at the end.
Seconds on the media player.
It is 10:07 a.m. on January 4th, 2023.
If you could press play, Ms. Gilman. Thank you, Ms. Gilman. Mr. Roddy, were you able to produce a receipt for this transaction?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach? Does this receipt show the issuance?
Whoever did that. They eventually got some store credit that was applied to that card, right?
Correct.
And then they walk out of the store with that card, right?
Correct.
And then that card, of course, finds its way down to Massachusetts, and that card is eventually used in Massachusetts sometime around January of 2023, correct?
Correct.
Nothing unusual about that if a family is trading cards back and forth, correct?
Correct. Sell.
An hour. Because we're going to suspend there for today. I thank you for your work today. I bring you some updates with regard to the schedule. Tomorrow, I'm going to have you return to the courtroom an hour later because I don't want you waiting around for me. I need to attend to other matters that don't require your attention, and so I don't want you waiting around for me to be clear. So you get a little extra time for yourself tomorrow morning. Be here for a 10 a.m. start. I expect, although I don't really know for sure, but based on what I now know, I expect that we may finish the evidence tomorrow early. Be here for a 10 a.m. start. I expect, although I don't really know for sure, but based on what I now know, I expect that we may finish the evidence tomorrow early. And so you may have a shortened day tomorrow. I just tell you these things to keep you as best informed so things don't come as a surprise to you. They happen that way. Right? So that's the update.
Wow, Nancy, great catch, my friend. Oh, folks, Nancy has the eye of a tiger. It's not just Abby with the eyes of a tiger, it's Nancy. Oh, my goodness, folks, we have a development. I can't believe you caught that, Nancy. You got the ears of a lion. Just in. The presentation of evidence in the Brian Walsh and Anna Walsh case will conclude tomorrow, Wednesday, per judge just now at the end of Tuesday. Lady, let's see, there will be a voir dire in the morning, and then jurors are back at 10 a.m. They will go home once evidence is done. And they will go home for the day. And I'm going to change that to new. Will end tomorrow. I can't believe it's ending tomorrow. I told you they were flying through that case. They must not all be calling their witnesses, and obviously the defense is not going to call a lot of witnesses if we're going to do it in one day. My word, it's over. Right, I was going to say, I don't think this jury is going to be out very long in deliberations. I just can't believe he's not putting on a long case. I mean, I'm astounded. I really am. I did not think that, I knew the state was going fast, but to hear that presentation of evidence could be done tomorrow, right, I was going to say, like, is he not going to testify? I listened to that clip. Oh, the prosecution's not done. We have a voir dire to do. But judge said it seems like she thinks the presentation of evidence is going to be done by tomorrow. So what, is Walshe not really putting on a defense? I don't know. Yeah, the prosecution is not rested. We still have an evidentiary voir dire in the morning. But if you're just tuning in, this is quite a development. Nancy heard it. I missed it. Nancy Towell to the rescue, ladies and gentlemen. And it does appear like tomorrow could be the last day of evidence in the Brian Walshe and Anna Walshe trial. Well then, so we're going to start with an evidentiary voir dire in the morning. We'll be there at 9 a.m. And then we're going right to, I guess, the conclusion of evidence. So, not something I think anyone saw coming. Certainly not something I saw coming. But, all right, Little Towel's exhausted. We did a truncated stream today. I'm not going to do my full traditional ending. I'm so tired. I took a final today. I drank 2 energy drinks. We couldn't have an energy drink at our seat, so I had to drink my full energy drink like in 10 seconds before the final. That was an experience. It's a voir dire of an expert related to DNA. It's supposed to be quick. It's going to be done by 10 o'clock. It's going to start at 9, be done by 10, and then evidence will conclude tomorrow as well. But let me get out of here a little bit early. I have a headache. I took my final. I'm done with law school, at least classes and finals, and we'll talk more about that over the coming days. I'm so grateful to all of you who took the time to watch with me today. Hello out there to Bossy Texas Chicken Bella and Abby and Nancy and all of our towel friends. I'm, again, doing a quick ending because this was a quick stream. We didn't even start up till late in the day. Nancy, you have a great time cooking. I can't wait to see you all tomorrow. We'll start a little bit early in the morning. I'll get up and start yelling about things, I'm sure. My name is Grant Smith Ellis. God bless all of you. You know what I'm going to say. If you benefited from today, forget about me. I'll figure it out. But if you want to do some good out in the world, look for a reason to go do a small act of service or kindness, ladies and gentlemen. On today of all days, the day, a few days after the Pearl Harbor anniversary, have you considered donating to our homeless veterans, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you, Bossy Texas Chicken Bella, for your well wishes. Have you considered donating to homeless veterans, though? There should not be one veteran in the United States of America, as Peep Bunny Towel will tell you, homeless against their will. Peep, isn't that right? As much as you hate the commies, you love our veterans. Peep loves our veterans. He says he couldn't be an American, commie-hating Peep Bunny Towel without our veterans. Do you think people should donate to our veterans, Peep? Yes, he thinks people should donate to our homeless veterans. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they served us, they protected our country, and now we can help them. But what if you want to help animals like Peep Bunny Towel? He tells me he's not an animal. He's a Peep Bunny. Anyway, what if you want to... Oh, God bless you, Bossy Texas Chicken Bella. Thank you for watching all day and all of your comments and for your support of Towel Channel. Peep Bunny Towel and I love you very much. What if you want to support animals like Bella or Abby or Peep Bunny Towel, even though he's not an animal according to him? You can donate to animal shelters run by veterans. Great way to help animals, great way to help veterans. What if you want to donate to animals in general, though? Not Peep Bunny Towel. He's not actually an animal. He's convinced that he is, but he's actually a Peep Bunny. And he's not edible either. Anyway, you could also donate to animal shelters in general, a great way to help our little furry friends, whether they're stuffed Peep Bunnies or just animals. He's going to gnaw my head off if I keep calling him a stuffed Peep Bunny. I think he's worried I'm going to eat him. One time we had a long debate on this channel about whether or not he's edible. He was very concerned that day. I was like, I'm not going to eat you. You are clearly not a marshmallow. You know what I mean? He's pleased that I'm not going to eat him. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, but if you want to help populations in the UK experiencing homelessness, big shout out to our towel friend LS. But if you want to help populations experiencing homelessness in the UK, the Big Issue is a great way to do that, ladies and gentlemen, donating to the Big Issue. Now, what if that's a charity that helps populations experiencing homelessness. But what if it's something else? What if you want to wave to someone on the street? That's a good thing to do. Or say hello to a friend or family member you haven't heard from in a while. Or maybe even donate 200 tomato plants like Francis Futrell did one time and have them designated honorary towels during the outro forevermore. However you live up to your towel eudaimonia or summum bonum, your greatest good in the ancient Greek or Latin respectively, I believe you'll be able to help us bring about a new realpolitik that's not centered on preserving, expanding, and demonstrating our power, but instead centered on preserving, expanding, and demonstrating our capacity to engage in small acts of service and kindness rooted in unconditional love. And in that way, may those small acts of service and kindness ripple outwards, bring about a new digital epoch defined by Aquarius the water bearer standing tall and carrying a towel while smiling with Peep Bunny towel. I believe it's possible because of you all, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm so grateful you spent some time with me today. Now, if you're on the YouTube, you can access the donation information easy enough. Don't send anything if it's a burden. But if you're on the X and you can't see what gets posted in the description, there's a Cash App if you want to help today. Celebrate Towel finishing law school, all the work that went in the past few years. A lot of people tried to set Towel off course, but I stayed the course. I did it, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm a proud Towel. Anyway, I got a Cash App, which is money sign Grant Smith Ellis. Got a Venmo at Grant-E1. See a little picture up there of an inflatable Elmo, in honor of my old friend Elmo. And then you'll also see there's a PayPal, paypal.me/Grant Ellis. If you have other donation questions, if you're from an area that doesn't accept those or can't use them, let me know. I have a Buy Me a Coffee, a Patreon, various ways you can help Little Towel out. And like I said, I don't know, I'm not going to get like a congratulatory hug or anything like that, other than from Peep Bunny Towel. So it's really you all I rely on, and I'm very grateful. Very, very grateful. So, with that said, I'm going to drop those donation links in the chat. If you want to help out, you can find them. Don't worry about it if you can't. Have a great rest of your day. I'm going to see you bright and early tomorrow, where we'll actually be able to do a proper stream. We'll get caught up. We'll get ready for the last day of evidence in the Brian Walshe trial. And then, of course, we have a Michael Proctor cell phone hearing at 9 a.m. as well. So get ready, get ready, get ready. And by the way, Kate Peters' entire troll network is falling apart. I made one post trolling like the 4 moles she has left, and immediately one of them went on Twitter and revealed themselves as a mole going back to 2024. The other mole, I'm pretty sure we're getting really close to like this hoop circle. The other mole got exposed. Things are going wild, ladies and gentlemen, and who ends up getting to see the full picture as a result? Strangely, Aidan Kearney. Why? Because Kate Peter was involved in nearly everything, and she is some kind of very strange power player that likes to operate indirectly, and she uses these moles that pretend to be fans of Turtle Boy and Karen Reed to feed her info, in my opinion. And they all just started exposing themselves overnight. Meredith was kind of like the domino that kicked it off. Like, it was like Kate had to deploy Meredith for an important operation because of how damning the documents about hidden discovery involving Kate were from the Turtle Boy case that came up last week. But by knocking over Meredith as a domino, it led a bunch of other people to inadvertently expose themselves as Kate moles. And then with Christie in there just throwing grenades and exposing everyone, it creates a situation where all these alt accounts that looked like they were attacking Lindsay or myself or whatever for years were really just pretending to do that. Well, they actually, I don't think, like Lindsay or I, but they were doing that to help Kate Peter, and they were gaining credibility with Aidan's circle and with Karen's circle as a result, all to Kate's benefit. Folks, oh my God, if you had told me last month that by today would be the day that we figured out this network of moles around Kate, and that it would involve potentially Meredith and like some of these other people, I'd be like, no, you can't possibly be right, but they're just exposing themselves. It's the greatest thing I've ever seen. So anyway, I had quite a day. I'm going to go rest now. I think that was kind of like a culmination of so many things overnight, but I was focusing on my final. So if you missed it, we have a lot to fucking talk about tomorrow. It all centers on Kate Peter and how her network of operatives collapsing is putting the Norfolk DA in this precarious position because all of Kate's tactics to keep the heat off of the court documents that show the discovery that was hidden in the Turtle Boy cases to insulate the cases from Kate touching them so they could potentially survive, to do a favor for the people who are connected and have friends in the Norfolk DA's office or in Kate's orbit or in Brian Tully's orbit or in Michael Proctor's orbit. And as a result, this last-ditch effort was so intense. This is probably the most intense attack I've ever seen Turtle Boy take. And credit to him. Like, him and I will never see eye to eye entirely, but credit to him, because they threw everything in the kitchen sink at him over this week, and it was specifically because of what he found out in the context of discovery about Kate Peters' role in the Karen Reed and Turtle Boy investigations that the Norfolk DA was trying to keep from the public. So Aiden, like, took this onslaught this week. I almost started to feel bad for the dude. Like, they were going at him so hard, and it was, in my opinion, all because the discovery that was hidden, that was coming out in his criminal cases, was going to expose the whole house of cards. So Kate pulled the lever. She broke glass. She sent Meredith out there, in my opinion. But that caused this fucking cacophony of chaos as all these different people started realigning. And as soon as people got the idea that potentially Meredith wasn't being authentic and was actually talking to Kate, boom, all of a sudden, all these other moles in Meredith's orbit, in Kate's orbit, they just start popping up. And it's people you wouldn't expect either. They do a pretty good job, like, running cover. But we're getting close. I think a lot of us looking into this, it's almost over. And I'm telling you, something about that unit, like the MSP unit getting in trouble for Sandra Birchmore's murder and the cover-up thereof, and then the Norfolk DA not running for re-election, and then Kate Peter attacking Adam Deutsch, and Adam Deutsch running for Norfolk DA, and at polling really well, raised like 70,000 in the first few months. I saw someone do an analysis today. Listen, this is going to be quite a series of events, and I'm sorry we didn't even get to talk about those developments overnight, because it all happened as I was getting ready to take my final. I would have loved to come on stream with you this morning and be like, listen, I think this is the precursor to the collapse of Kate Peters' influence network, because they're taking the bait and they're so desperate and cornered that they had to throw their last sort of things at Aiden. I would have been talking to you about all that. I am absolutely fascinated by this dynamic. I just can't believe how many people, like, it's really not that hard if you think about it for Kate to pull this off, because all she really needs to do is have some people go out there and just be obsequious towards Aiden, just have them fawn over him. Aiden's gonna be like, oh, you support me. And, like, listen, I think some people are really loyal to Aiden, like the Glare, etc., etc. But those are hard to find. Like, good people are hard to find. Most of the people who are just throwing their support at you, like, some of them are going to be good people. But on the whole, especially with a platform like Aiden's, they're going to be manipulative. And some of them might be moles. And Kate Peter has a strategy. Steph has a strategy. These people, this PI firm they were all working with or whatever it was, these people had strategies, and they used friendship and support as cover to accomplish whatever their real end is. I didn't even see it. I was right in the thick of it. I didn't see the strings Kate was pulling. Now I do. And now I'm like, wait a minute. It's not just what Aiden was doing. He was basically being tormented by this artificial network around him. And some of the things people were attributing to Aiden weren't even Aiden's doing. They were other people doing them, hoping Aiden would just go along with it. And in reality, those people were moles for Kate. It was like a clusterfuck of a situation, but I finally see it. I can see clearly now. The rain is gone, and let me tell you, I'm ready. I'm ready for this. I'm ready. I was born ready for this. I've been saying it for a year and a half. I'm ready, little towels. Are you? I'm not sure. I think some of you are. I think for some of you, this is going to be a lot of fucking Schadenfreude. Hey! All right, towels got to go. God bless each and every one of you. My name is Grant Smith Ellis. Have a great rest of your evening. We will talk soon. From me to you, Towel loves you very much. Same thing with you, Towel friends on the YouTube. You know how much Towel loves you. We'll be with each other bright and early tomorrow. I can't wait to see you then. Until we meet again, just know how much Towel loves you. how much I appreciate you, how much it means to me. We get to spend time together. And yes, someone sent a towel donation, and I get to go get a cheeseburger now. Do you know how excited I am? I was like, oh, I'm not going to eat. Do you understand I was eating M&M packets? Do you want to see what I survived on today during this final? I lived on... This is all that got me through. I went to the food pantry at school. I lived on these nuts. I lived on a package of nuts, trail mix. I lived on a Rice Krispie treat. I didn't even eat my orange crackers because he wouldn't let us eat during the final. And then I ate packages of M&Ms. That's what law school does to you. It reduces you to eating Rice Krispie treats and trail mix and drinking energy drinks to get through a final. God bless America. I'm done for the day. I'm going.